Chapter 11:21. Xiao Daoan felt a chill run down his spine. He secretly promised his late wife in his heart that he would buy a bigger house for his daughter in the future. Only then did he feel a little more at ease. Jing Yunzhao and Xiao Haiqing both understood that Xiao Daoan looked like a man with a heavy sense of responsibility on the surface. He valued his identity as a father very much. If business and work were not discussed, he might still be considered a man who cared and loved his daughter a little. However, when it came to money, benefits, and work, anyone would become an expendable object in his eyes. Not only that, but he was also the kind of person who wanted to build a monument to his chastity. He had clearly done something wrong to his daughter, but he still had to remind himself again and again that he was forced to do it. He found excuses for himself, and after comforting himself, once the daughter he had wronged disobeyed him again, he would become aggressive again. Looking at this man, Su Wenqing felt extreme disdain in his heart. How could a man who couldn't even protect his family deserve the so-called future and achievements? Xiao Daoan lacked money and was in a hurry to use it. The next day, he hurriedly went with Su Wenqing to go through the procedures. These procedures were not very difficult, and they were completely done in 2 days. Seeing the extra 500,000 in his bank card, he was overjoyed and left with Zhang Rong almost immediately. However, when he was moving out, Su Wenqing looked at the computer and other items in his hands and sneered. I seem to have said that if I buy this house, I can't take anything in this house other than the person, right? Xiao Daoan was stunned. This computer is mine. The things that were placed at home are now mine. Su Wenqing instantly turned hostile. These 2 days, Su Wenqing's attitude was not bad and polite, but now that he suddenly changed, Xiao Daoan was caught off guard and was shocked. No, this computer and these are all things that I needed when I moved in. They are not originally things in this house. Xiao Daoan continued to explain. I don't care about that. I only know that when I came to look at the house, these things were all here, and I've already taken photos to keep as evidence. If you take them away now, that's stealing my things. I'm not happy about it. Su Wenqing sneered. Xiao Daoan's face darkened. He did not expect that the other party would be so calculative. He had spent more than 10,000 renminbi on this computer, and it hadn't been used for long. Other than that, there were a few other electronic products that added up to tens of thousands of RMB. If the other party calculated it this way, then he had sold this house at a loss. Xiao Daoan gritted his teeth. Looking at Su Wenqing, his eyes were instantly filled with disgust. This person was too evil. He actually dared to scheme against him. However, he also knew that he had suffered a great loss in this matter. It was useless to continue arguing. He only said, "Okay, I have some files on my computer. I want to copy them. I'm sorry, the things on my computer are private files. You can't touch them." Then, he opened the door and said, "Have a safe journey." Xiao Daoan's face paled. The thing in the computer was very important. If he couldn't take it out, he would have to go back in trouble for a period of time. Why are you so treacherous? What I'm selling is a house. What right do you have to detain my things? Xiao Daoan was enraged and looked like he was about to charge forward. Xiao Haiqing pursed her lips and smiled, but her smile quickly disappeared. Dad, why didn't you think carefully before selling it? My mom's portrait is also here. Doesn't it belong to someone else now? Xiao Daoan's heart clenched, feeling a little embarrassed. Chapter 11:22. When he was signing the document, Xiao Daoan looked at it more than 10 times, afraid that he would be cheated. But no matter how he looked at it, he didn't expect Su Wenqing to be so unreasonable. Everything in the house, he took photos as proof. He also agreed that there was nothing wrong. But at that time, he couldn't possibly hold all of his computer and other things in his arms and let this Su Wenqing sell the license. Moreover, who would have thought that the other party even included his personal belongings in it? Not only that, but now he even sold his deceased wife's photo? How could this be? No, I'm not selling this house. I'd rather sell it to those people at a discount of tens of thousands than sell it to you. Xiao Daoan suddenly said. Su Wenqing sat back on his own sofa and lightly patted the cushion. Although it was hard, it had a warm feeling. How could this person in front of him, Xiao Daoan, deserve to live in such a humane place? Mr. Xiao, this house is already mine. Now that you're standing in my house, if you don't leave, I won't be courteous anymore, Su Wenqing said with a smile. When Xiao Daoan heard that, he knew that he was really screwed this time. But he couldn't understand. It was just selling a house. How could the other party cheat him like this? He wasn't even allowed to copy the documents on the computer. You're good. Xiao Daoan was so angry that he wanted to strangle the person in front of him to death. However, he didn't dare to look at his daughter's face, nor did he dare to look at the photo on the table. After all, he was in the wrong. Xiao Daoan was also a smart person. He knew that since this house was sold, this matter was settled. Hence, he left angrily. Xiao Haiqing pretended to beg Su Wenqing to let her take a few things away. She didn't follow Xiao Daoan, but the couple couldn't be bothered to care at this time. Second Uncle Su, thank you, Xiao Haiqing said sincerely. It's a small matter. You paid for it yourself. Later, we'll do the handover procedures again. I'll return the house to you, Su Wenqing said politely. Not for the time being. I want to put the house under second uncle's name first. We'll talk about it later, Xiao Haiqing said quickly. Her father was a shrewd man, and now was not the right time to hand it over. Su Wenqing didn't care about this kind of thing at all. He nodded and got up to walk around the house. He saw many old photos. These are all yours? Su Wenqing frowned slightly, somewhat surprised. The girl in the photo was quite cute when she was young. She had a sweet smile, and her parents were standing beside her. They looked very happy. However, it was different when the photo was slightly older. The girl had short hair and looked very neat. She looked a little arrogant and gloomy, giving people a rebellious feeling. Moreover, most of the photos were of her alone, and she looked a little lonely. Xiao Haiqing stood at the side. She felt a little unfamiliar with her previous appearance. Su Wenqing turned his head to look at Xiao Haiqing. He suddenly remembered the image that kept appearing in his mind. He was stunned for a moment, but he quickly recovered. Since you're going to be a public figure in the future, you can't have too much filth around you. Otherwise, this path will be very difficult. He's your biological father. You can't kill or touch him, but he'll always be a burden to you. Have you thought about this? Looking at this photo, he should be able to guess that the girl in front of him had some father-daughter relationship with Xiao Daoan in the past. It was very difficult to settle things between blood relatives. Even if it was someone like Big Brother, didn't he also show mercy to that Suyu previously? Otherwise, with Suyu's character, he would have died long ago. Chapter 11:23. Xiao Haiqing didn't think that Su Wenqing would suddenly ask about her private matters, and for a moment, she felt a little flattered. I know he's my biggest obstacle, but he's also my biggest help, Xiao Haiqing said calmly. If her father hadn't been so ruthless back then, she wouldn't have been completely disappointed and wouldn't have had the urge to succeed and become famous. She might even still be a chess piece for her father, and because of his and her stepmother's attitude, she would be sad and upset, quarreling with each other endlessly. Su Wenqing's gaze deepened, and after a while he said, Since this house is now under my name, then to prevent people from coming to cause trouble after we leave, I'll have people specially come over to guard it. However, this house had a different meaning to Xiao Haiqing, and it wasn't suitable for outsiders to live in it, but it wasn't troublesome. The room next to it seemed pretty good, and he could temporarily buy it. In the future, if he wanted to come to this small county to relax, he wouldn't need to stay in Li Xiaoyun's hotel. Su Wenqing happily decided in his heart. With the house in hand, Xiao Haiqing didn't have any worries at this time. However, once Xiao Haiqing returned to Ning City, she handed over the information she had gathered to her father's business rival. Even if the loss was calculated at a minimum, it would be more than 500,000 yuan. The Xiao family's company was indeed pitifully small, but after all, it had been glorious for a period of time, so it still had some foundation. She wouldn't let that hypocritical father of hers get the money for nothing. These preparations had been done long before Xiao Haiqing left Huaning County, so it didn't take her much effort at all. After she was done with the house, she searched the mountain with Jing Yunzhao as usual. 7 or 8 days passed, and just when Jing Yunzhao was starting to suspect that he had miscalculated the approximate location, a commotion suddenly came from among the hired workers. Found it! Found it! One of them quickly ran in front of the four and pointed in a direction. When Jing Yunzhao and Su Yuanqing heard this, their faces instantly changed. They immediately followed the person's footsteps. As they approached step by step, their hearts became heavier and heavier. When they reached the trees, they saw that there were close to 10 trees with the word lawn engraved on them. These trees had a history of at least 18 years. They were very thick and solid, but the engravings on them were very deep. Even now, they could still see it at a glance. Dig. Jing Yunzhao stared at the ground surrounded by the trees and said. Even his breathing quickened a little. When everyone heard this, they didn't say a word and started working. The turf was lifted up bit by bit, revealing the dark brown soil inside. There was strength in numbers. Seeing that the hole was getting deeper and deeper, Jing Yunzhao ordered his men to slow down to avoid damaging the remains. Time passed by minute, second by second. Jing Yunzhao didn't dare to slack off. She looked around at the sparsely populated environment and thought about the woman who was related to her by blood. Her heart only felt a wave of sorrow. Found it. Suddenly, a voice came into his ears. Jing Yunzhao could only see a piece of mud-stained bone sticking out of the large pit in front of her. Beside her, Su Yuanqing's body was trembling slightly. The two of them walked forward and carefully moved the surrounding soil, taking out the whole set of bones. The remains were a bit messy. It seemed that, as Shunxi had said, it had been dug up and buried again. Jing Yunzhao took a ring from the finger bone. The style was ordinary, but he could see the word E engraved inside the ring. It was stained with soil and was very clear. Chapter 11:24. Su Wenqing's eyes were solemn and tears welled up in his eyes. He didn't say a word. Although the remains had something that belonged to Su Xianlan, it had to be medically confirmed. At this time, the big guys didn't expect to dig out a human bone from the mountain. Their expressions were a little solemn. These people were very honest workers. Some of them had never seen a skeleton in their lives, so they couldn't help but feel a little shocked. Immediately, the remains were temporarily stored, and Su Wenqing was responsible for asking a professional to verify it. However, within a few days, everything was settled. The bones were indeed Su Xianlan's, and the faint hope of the past instantly disappeared. Following that, the two of them moved Su Xianlan's corpse to the Li family cemetery for the time being. However, the moment they entered the Li family cemetery, Jing Yunzhao saw the name engraved on the tombstone that was as tall as a few people and was extremely shocked. When she first met Li Xiaoyun, she was worshipping her ancestors in Huaning County. Now that she saw it, the so-called worshipping ancestors was just a saying. The cemetery was very large. She buried her mother alone in a quiet place. During the few days that Jing Yunzhao stayed in Huaning County, Pak Yuan sped up the reorganization of the company. The mystery of the behind-the-scenes boss that had kept everyone in suspense for several months was personally solved by him. Bai Yuan was definitely a public businessman. The number of times he appeared in front of the media was relatively high, and he often made some inconceivable decisions. However, this Jade Spirit Wine Company was developing better and better. Ever since he personally said that the owner of Jade Spirit Wine Company was someone else, many people had been secretly investigating and observing. They even specially selected a few of the most suspicious people. Pak Yuan had been gritting his teeth and not saying anything about this before. Now that Jing Yunzhao had given the order, of course, he wouldn't continue to hide it. When Yuling Wines was established, Pak Yuan directly stated to the public that there had always been only one boss of Yuling Wines, and that was Jing Yunzhao. At the same time, Qin Shui of Yunling Medicine reposted this comment and commented, "All the staff of Yunling Medicine greets President Jing. Old Qin, thank you for your nurturing. I will definitely do my best." As soon as this comment came out, the public was in an uproar. Jing Yunzhao? Who was that? Moreover, wasn't the Jade Spirit Wines announcing the boss behind the scenes? Why did Yunling Medical Company get involved in this? Therefore, everyone subconsciously linked the names of these two companies together. Thinking about it carefully, they were shocked. Cloud Spirit, Jade Spirit, the names seemed to be the same. Could it be that they were really created by the same person? As soon as this idea came out, almost everyone who knew about the two companies went crazy and began to ask the employees of the two companies. Unfortunately, other than a few high-ranking officials, no one else had ever heard of the name Jing Yunzhao. However, Even though the name Jing Yunzhao was well known by everyone, up until now, almost everyone thought that this Jing Yunzhao was a woman in her 30s or 40s or even older. Pak Yuan was only responsible for notifying them. He was not responsible for revealing the true face of their big boss. Outsiders wouldn't think that Jing Yunzhao was just an 18-year-old girl, but that might not be the case in the Li family. Back then, the birthday party was so grand that everyone in the Li family must have known about her name. Now that they heard this news, it was impossible for them not to investigate her. Jing Yunzhao could only observe the changes and wait quietly. After returning from Huaning County, apart from her daily classes, she spent the rest of her time in Immortal Crane Hall. She believed that if her so-called biological grandfather found out about her relationship with Immortal Crane Hall, he would definitely not sit still. Chapter 11:25. In the Celestial Crane Hall, Jing Yunzhao had a room reserved for her. If she stayed here too late, it would be convenient for her to stay the night as well. In the middle of the night, the medicine boy outside the door kept ringing the bell. Jing Yunzhao knew that there was an emergency. She quickly got up and went to the medicine hall. As soon as she entered the medicine hall, she saw a group of men and women supporting each other. One of the women of the same age who reeked of alcohol staggered forward. She pointed at Jing Yunzhao and said, "You're a doctor? Treat him. Hurry." Following the direction that the woman was pointing at, Jing Yunzhao saw a man in a strange condition. This man was convulsing all over and unconscious. The smell of alcohol on his body was even stronger than that of the woman. Jing Yunzhao immediately went forward to check his pulse. She realized that this person's breathing was shallow and slow. His pulse was weak but fast. His skin was cold and wet. If he was not treated, he would die from respiratory failure. Simply put, he drank too much and was poisoned by alcohol. Jing Yunzhao laid him on his side and cleaned his mouth. Then, she instructed the medicine boy to prepare medicine while she used silver needles to alleviate the situation. Although this illness was urgent, it was not difficult for her to deal with it. After the medicine was ready, she immediately let the man drink it. After a while, he regained some consciousness and began to vomit nonstop. The effect was much better than having his stomach pumped. The woman standing at the side dodged to the side with a look of disdain. Then, she glanced at Jing Yunzhao. He did not expect her to be so capable. "What's your name?" "Your medical skills are quite good," the woman said. Jing Yunzhao looked at the person in front of her with a smile that was not a smile. Her eyes narrowed. "Thank you for the compliment. Please go to the side and pay for the treatment and medicine." "You." A trace of displeasure appeared on the woman's face, but she quickly hid it and smiled. "I heard that a young female doctor came to the Celestial Crane Hall. Her medical skills are amazing. It seems that they are not lying. However, although you can treat this kind of small illness, don't be too proud. There are many doctors in this world. Someone like you who came from an unorthodox background cannot compare." Jing Yunzhao found it strange. Usually, even if it was an emergency, the medicine boy would rarely ask her to come out. After all, this kind of illness could be treated by other doctors or even apprentices. This woman must have asked the medicine boy to ask her to come out. Although she brought a patient over, her gaze and attitude did not seem like she was really here to see a doctor. It was more like she was here to see her. Not only that, this woman had an arrogant and noble temperament. She was probably not from an ordinary background. Jing Yunzhao glanced at her a few times and acted as if she didn't hear anything. She turned around and left, leaving the rest to the medicine boy. However, at this moment, the woman suddenly rushed up and said, "You're Jing Yunzhao, right? I am your cousin." "Cousin?" Jing Yunzhao lifted her eyes to look at her and instantly understood. Her grandfather, Li Wenba, remarried after her grandmother, Jing Wenyue, died. They had 3 children, 2 girls and 1 boy. If they had to be counted by blood, they could be considered half her aunt and uncle. However, that uncle, Li Juanrue, died 18 years ago. It was said that he was killed by her eldest uncle. His father, Li Tianyi, had 2 half-sisters. The oldest was only 3 years younger than him and had long been married off. The other was slightly younger. She was probably only 27 or 28 years old and had yet to marry. In other words, The woman in front of her should be the only daughter of her eldest aunt. Jing Yunjiao could not help but want to laugh. She did not know if her grandfather really could not hold back and sent his granddaughter to inquire about the situation. Chapter 11:26. Jing Yunjiao was well aware of this, but she didn't admit it. Instead, her eyes scanned the girl from head to toe before she laughed lightly. With a hint of disdain, she said, "Classmate, are you trying to climb up the social ladder? I'm sorry, but your appearance and temperament don't match our family. Don't even think about it." She despised that grandfather of hers and even felt a little disgusted with him. She didn't think it was shameful to take in a son-in-law. If the husband and wife got along well, they could still live happily. Moreover, she had asked many people. Her grandmother, Jing Wanyue, was an extremely reasonable person. She definitely wouldn't bully others. Moreover, the Li family had been one of the Li family's side branches for hundreds of years. In the past, they were considered the Jing family's trusted aides. However, Li Wenba changed the name of the Jing family less than 3 years after his wife's death. He went against the original intention of marrying into the family, causing the Jing family to have no successor. He was really a heartless and unrighteous person. Now, Li Wenba was using the Jing family's property to raise another woman, a child that had nothing to do with the Jing family. How shameless! It was impossible for Li Wenba to have only recently found out about the news of her recognizing her relatives. Yet, he had only let the members of the Li family appear in front of her now. Wasn't it because she had asked Bai Yuan and Li Wenba to announce her identity? He wasn't satisfied with taking over the Jing family's property. Now, he even had ideas about her. She really admired his character. When Jing Yunjiao said those words of disdain, Shi Yijiao frowned. "You actually said that I'm not worthy of your family?" "Jing Yunjiao, if I remember correctly, you should be a wild girl who wandered outside for 18 years, right? Now that we've found you, consider yourself lucky. In 2 days, you'll be coming with me to see my grandfather." "May I ask what your grandfather's surname is? And who is he to me?" Jing Yunjiao asked. "My grandfather. Of course you're my grandfather. His surname is Li," Shi Yijiao said with some disgust. In the past, she was the only junior in the family. Her parents doted on her, and her aunt took care of her. Now, a cousin suddenly appeared. Moreover, she was the daughter of that crippled uncle. "Oh, his surname is Li? I thought your surname was Jing." Jing Yunjiao chuckled and said casually, "If your grandfather wants to see me or wants to be my grandfather, that's fine. But you have to ask him to change his surname first. Otherwise, there's no need to talk about it." After saying that, she glanced at her contemptuously and walked past her. When Shi Yijiao saw how arrogant Jing Yunjiao was, she was really angry. She didn't want to come today, but a friend who was drinking with her happened to have some problems. She also remembered that her mother and aunt had been talking about Jing Yunjiao these days, so she thought of dropping by to meet him. If she was obedient and sensible, she would treat her as her cousin for the time being. After all, she was just a wild sparrow. No matter how much she taught her, she couldn't become a real phoenix. But she didn't expect her to be so insensible. Shi Yijiao looked at Jing Yunjiao's back, and a trace of darkness flashed through her eyes. She then looked at her companion, who was still vomiting, and felt a little disgusted. She threw over 1,000 yuan on the counter and turned to leave. The capital's Li family was a rich and powerful family. In the eyes of outsiders, they were extremely rich. In many people's hearts, the Li family had been practicing medicine for generations. This was because when the Li family rebuilt the hospital, they used the word inheritance to promote it. However, not many people knew that the Li family had inherited the Jing family's wealth. The Li family didn't know much about medicine. They only knew how to run a business. After all, Li Wenba's previous generations were only shopkeepers who managed the Jing family's shops. Chapter 11:27. After Shi Yijiao angrily left the red-crowned crane hall, she immediately returned to the Li family. The Li family used to be near the Su family, but now they had moved to another manor. The manor's environment was beautiful, and the buildings were filled with a modern atmosphere, luxurious and grand. There weren't many people in the Li family, so the head of the family was naturally Li Wenba. He was already close to 70 years old, and his second wife after Jing Wanhua was called Lin Feng. She was also around 66 or 67 years old. However, their bodies were still relatively healthy, and they were full of energy when teaching the children. Li Wenba had 2 sons and 2 daughters. The eldest son was Li Tianyi, born of Jing Wanyue. He should have inherited the Jing family's medical skills and taken the surname Jing. The youngest son, Li Juanrui, only lived to 17 years old. When Su Xianlan disappeared, Su Yuantek angrily did something, causing Li Wenba to be unable to have any descendants. Although Li Tianyi's legs were broken when he was brought back from Huaning County, they could have been cured. However, Li Tianyi stubbornly resisted, and with the pressure from the Su family, Li Tianyi's legs were completely crippled. From then on, it was equivalent to having no lower body. Li Wenba could no longer think of ways to make him remarry, have children, and inherit the family business. Of his 2 sons, one was dead and the other was injured. It could be said that this was the biggest blow Li Wenba had suffered in his life, so he could only turn his attention to his daughters. The eldest daughter was called Li Shuyuan. Her husband was in politics, but his development was not as good as Su Yuantek's and was suppressed by him. The Li family was very strong, so she was a bit weak. The 2 of them only had 1 daughter, Shi Jiao. His youngest daughter was called Li Shuqi. She had been very intelligent since she was young and had studied Western medicine. She was only 27 years old and had never married. Li Wenba had long wanted her to find a son-in-law who would marry into the family. However, the word son-in-law was taboo in the Li family. Although Li Wenba had done something wrong to the Jing family, he didn't want someone with a different surname to steal his property in the future. Thus, he had always been hesitant. After Shi Jiao returned home, she saw the elders in the family happily chatting. She immediately sat down angrily with a bitter face. It was hard not to notice. What's wrong? Who provoked our Jiao Jiao? Old Madame Lin Feng asked with an amiable face. Although the old lady was not young, she looked very dignified. The round pearls on her neck were beautiful, and her gestures were very dignified. She looked very much like the ancient matriarchs depicted on TV. Grandma, who else could it be? Isn't it the person you've been talking about every day recently? Shi Jiao pouted unhappily. When they heard this, they were confused. Who are we talking about? It's that Jing Yunzhao, that cousin of mine? Shi Jiao asked directly. As soon as he said that, everyone's expressions changed. The old lady's smile faded a little. When Li Shuyuan saw that her daughter's words had made her mother unhappy, she immediately chimed in. This child. Why did you suddenly mention a wild girl? He's just an ugly guy who can't be seen on the streets. He's not important at all. Li Shuqi sat by the side and didn't say anything, but there was a hint of displeasure in her eyes. Everything in this family was destined to be inherited by her. Anyone who could stop her should not exist, especially those with the surname Jing. Mom, that's where you're wrong. Shi Jiao sat up straight and looked at everyone. Her eyes sparkled as she continued. Today, I went to the Immortal Crane Hall and saw Jing Yunzhao. Chapter 11:28. Today, my friend drank too much, so I wanted to take him to the Red Crown Crane Hall to take a look. Who knew that after I got there, I would discover that this Jing Yunzhao is extremely arrogant, but she's quite pretty. Oh right, her temperament is similar to that trash of an uncle. They're both ice cold. Also, she does have medical skills. My friend was in a critical condition, but in the end, she cured him in just a few moments. How miraculous! After Shi Jiao praised her, her tone suddenly changed. But she's especially annoying. I went up and said that I was her cousin, but she actually asked for my grandfather's surname. She even said that if I want to claim kinship, then my grandfather's surname should be Jing. Grandma, what do you think she means? Is she crazy? Shi Jiao was only 18 years old this year, so she wasn't very clear about her past. She only knew that when she was born, she was the only little miss in the family. Her grandparents doted on her, and her parents let her have her way. Her mother also said that if she was outstanding enough, then she might be able to obtain a large portion of the family's assets. As for that Jing Yunzhao, she really didn't understand. She was clearly her grandfather's granddaughter, so why was her surname Jing and not Li? If Jing Yunzhao's father was really Li Tianyi's trash of an uncle, then Jing Yunzhao's identity would be much more legitimate than hers. She would also have the qualifications to compete with her for the inheritance. Yet, Jing Yunzhao actually made her grandfather change his surname. Her grandfather's previous wife's surname was indeed Jing, but how could a husband follow his wife's surname? She was simply crazy. Shi Yijiao's words caused the old lady and the others' expressions to change. The things that Shi Yijiao didn't understand, they, the elders, knew. Mom, this Jing Yunzhao probably didn't come with good intentions. Do we still want to acknowledge her? Li Shuyuan hurriedly said. Just because she didn't come with good intentions, that's all the more reason to acknowledge her. The old lady's wrinkled face revealed a trace of ruthlessness. Do you know the background of that Yunling medicine? It even involved the military. Your father sent people to investigate. One of the factories specializes in producing medicine for the military. It's very confidential. If it wasn't an extremely effective prescription, then they definitely wouldn't have put in so much effort. Right now, the prescription should be in Jing Yunzhao's hands. The Su family has already snatched it, but we can't let them completely take over what should belong to us. The successors of the Jing clan were all extremely skilled in medicine, but it was a pity that Jing Wanyue had died too early. The prescriptions and medical books she left behind were nothing special. Almost all of the Jing clan's apprentices could learn them, but the true essence was hidden somewhere by that woman. If they had obtained the Jing family's ancestral secret technique back then, no one would have been able to shake their Li family. Now, Jing Yunzhao had suddenly appeared. If she was just an ordinary girl, it would have been fine. However, her medical skills seemed to be extraordinarily high. She was even able to establish a pharmaceutical and wine company at such a young age. From this, it seemed that Jing Wanyue had used some special method to pass down the knowledge. He had to find a way to get it back. The old lady's words were righteous, as if this thing's surname was Li. If Jing Yunzhao was present, he would have snorted in disdain. There were not many people in the world who could be so thick-skinned. It was truly rare to see someone take someone else's things for granted. But she's definitely prejudiced against us now. How can we make her let down her guard? Li Shuyuan said. The old lady thought for a moment. There's no need to rush. She's just an 18-year-old child. Her life was ordinary in the past. Other than her medical skills, she probably doesn't have any other skills. Otherwise, why would the company be handed over to someone else? Chapter 11:29. Halfway through her words, the old lady thought for a while before continuing. Qi, go back and talk to your father. Tell him what Jiao Jiao heard. Otherwise, when Jing Yunzhao comes back, he'll really treat her like a treasure. The Li family didn't even have an heir, so they could only choose from their daughters. However, Li Wenba was a suspicious person. After all, he had wronged his wife and robbed other people's family wealth, so he had some scruples when it came to choosing a son-in-law. Now, she wanted to let her husband know that this granddaughter who came back from the outside was disloyal and was worse than a son-in-law. I know, Mom. Li Shuqi sat on the side and answered very cooperatively. Li Shuyuan glanced at her younger sister and felt a trace of jealousy, but there was nothing she could do. After all, she was old and already married. Moreover, her daughter didn't take her surname. If her surname was Li, at least she would have a better chance of winning. Right about Big Brother. Should we tell him? Li Shuqi asked again. The big brother she was talking about was Li Tianyi. However, when the old lady heard him, her face immediately turned cold. What big brother? He's a lunatic. How can we not tell him about such a big thing? All these years, he kept his mouth shut because he was afraid that we would go to that small place and bring his daughter back. If it weren't for him, the Su family wouldn't have gotten ahead of us. The Su family had a grudge against her for killing her son. That year, when Su Xianlan kidnapped Li Tianyi, what did it have to do with her son? Su Xianlan's disappearance wasn't caused by her son, but Su Yuantek actually killed her son. If he wanted revenge, he should have killed Li Tianyi. Why did he target her son? If it weren't for him, the Li family wouldn't have fallen to the point where there was no one to inherit it. Thinking of her son, the old lady trembled with anger. Her two daughters saw this and hurriedly went to comfort her. However, Jing Yunzhao didn't know anything about this at the moment. In the middle of the night, she stepped into the ancestral hall in the backyard. On top of it was the ranking of the ancestors of the Jing family. Thinking back to the first time she came here, the rankings were all covered up and she didn't see them. But now, she personally wiped the rankings one by one. As expected, the name placed at the top was the name of the Jing clan's ancestor, Jing He. She had seen that sage-like old man. Even if it was just a shadow in the space, it was still unforgettable. It was all thanks to him that she was where she was today. Looking down, the names were unfamiliar, but the surnames gave him a sense of familiarity. She felt that everything in this world seemed to be predestined. Although she had wandered outside, she had relied on an old piece of jade to carry the surname of Jing. If she had been discovered by the Li family back then, her life would have been even more miserable than in her previous life. She might not even have been able to inherit the medical skills of her ancestor. The significance of a surname was significant and could not be underestimated. You are indeed the granddaughter of the young mistress. After Jing Yunjiao finished wiping, she knelt down and kowtowed a few more times. Behind her, Dr. Yu Fu's voice sounded. Dr. Yu. Jing Yunjiao called out. Yu Fu's face showed some excitement. It was completely different from his previous cold and strange temperament. He reached out and hurriedly helped Jing Yunjiao up from the ground. It's been so many years. I thought the Jing family no longer had any descendants. She had even thought of adopting a child outside to inherit, but the bloodline couldn't lie. After thinking about it, she couldn't accept it. How could she let the ancestors of the Jing family accept it? Chapter 11:30. Thinking back to when Jing Yunjiao first appeared, she had a feeling that Jing Yunjiao's temperament towards medicine was the same as the Jing family's, with an innate arrogance. It was a pity that she didn't know Jing Yunjiao's identity back then. A few days ago, Jing Yunjiao returned to the Su family. She also knew about this. She had long wanted to ask if her biological father was Li Tianyi and whether she had the Jing family's bloodline in her, but she didn't dare to ask. Until just now, when the Li family's people came knocking on her door, she knew that there was no mistake. Thank you, Dr. Yu, for guarding Immortal Crane Hall all these years, Jing Yunjiao said sincerely. If Immortal Crane Hall didn't have Yu Fu, it would have been destroyed long ago. If it fell into the hands of an unreliable person, it was possible that this house would be sold to the Li family. At that time, there would be nothing left. Although the Jing family's disciples were many, they were scattered everywhere. Now, it was like a plate of loose sand, and it was impossible for them to make a comeback. When Miss was about to give birth, she was afraid that there would be an accident, so she specially instructed me to let your father study medicine well no matter what, so that he could inherit everything from the Jing family in the future. But she didn't expect. Since you are Miss Wenyue's granddaughter, I will help you no matter what, but I hope you can promise me one thing. Yu Fu said with a serious face. Although there was no such thing as master and servant in this era, it was different decades ago. It was all thanks to the Jing family that she could live until now. Jing Wenyue was her master. Now that Jing Wenyue was no longer around, even if times had changed, she still had to protect the Jing family's child. Please say, Jing Yunjiao replied. Since the Li family's people came to find you, I'm afraid they will continue to disturb you in the future. That Li Wenba is a despicable person. He will definitely not allow his children to have the surname Jing. When the time comes, he will definitely want you to change your name, but I hope you can promise not to compromise no matter what. No matter what methods they use, even if they use your biological father as a threat, they will not allow you to change your surname. Can you promise me? Yu Fu said very seriously. Jing Yunjiao wasn't surprised and nodded straightforwardly. You can rest assured on this point. Back then, she had also promised the elder ancestor that she would study medicine well and carry it forward. Naturally, she could not go back on her promise. Hearing this, Yu Fu's expression eased a lot, but he sighed again. What a pity. It's said that the Jing family has a medical book that records some secret techniques or treatment methods for incurable diseases. It's very important, but your grandmother didn't have the time to pass this thing down to the next generation. That thing has always been tightly guarded. Other than the heir of the Jing family, no one else can find it. In the past, I was glad that Miss didn't leave behind any clues for Li Wenba to succeed. But now, I'm a little sad. After all, you can't learn it now. Yu Fu said. When Jing Yunjiao heard what she said, she didn't take it to heart. The spirit jade left behind by the old ancestor was the real treasure. Now that she had absorbed almost all of it, she was afraid that even the medical book passed down by the Jing clan would not be as complete as the spirit jade. Just like the acupuncture techniques she was using now, many of them were secrets that were not passed down. Dr. Yu, don't worry. The master who taught me medicine back then had extremely high medical skills. I remember he said that his medical skills came from the same source as the Jing family. He also said that my surname was Jing and that it was fate, so he taught me everything. I think I have already learned the things that the Jing family lost by chance. It can be considered a blessing in disguise. Jing Yunjiao lied and comforted him. Chapter 11:31. Hearing Jing Yunjiao's words, Yu Fu's face was filled with astonishment and surprise. If that's the case, then that's really great. Yu Fu was extremely excited. No wonder Jing Yunjiao's medical skills were so superb. Ever since she came to Immortal Crane Hall, there was almost no illness that she couldn't cure. She was simply a miracle. He originally thought that she had great talent, but he didn't expect that it was not only so, it was predestined. The two talked through the night, and this old Dr. Yu Fu's emotions could not be calmed down for a long time. But after the stone in his heart was lifted, Dr. Yu looked much more amiable than before. Early in the morning, he called everyone to the back hall. There were more and more patients in Immortal Crane Hall, so there were many more doctors in the hall. But they were all people who knew each other well. Now that everyone was gathered together, they looked at each other, not knowing what Yu Fu wanted to announce. After all the doctors, apprentices, and even medicine apprentices had gathered, Yu Fu dragged Jing Yunjiao to the front and said, "Today I have something to tell everyone, and it's a good thing. Back then, Miss Wenyu passed away suddenly, and her child was taken care of by Li Wenbo, causing Immortal Crane Hall to be without a successor. Even though I've temporarily managed Immortal Crane Hall these past few years, I've always been brooding over it. However, from now on, Immortal Crane Hall has a true owner, and she is Jing Yunjiao. We have all received the grace of the Jing clan and learned the Jing clan's medical skills. The first rule of Immortal Crane Hall is to never deceive or destroy the ancestors. Jing Yunjiao is Miss Wenyu's only granddaughter. Her medical skills are exceptional. This you have all witnessed. No matter if it is bloodline, character, or medical skills, she is fully deserving. So from today onwards, the master of Immortal Crane Hall is Jing Yunjiao. Since everyone is a disciple of the Jing clan, you should respect your master. Immortal Crane Hall was not considered a sect, but it had its own rules. These ancient masters had always been a teacher for a day, a father for life. These people's medical skills were all learned from the Jing clan. Now that Jing Yunjiao had returned, it was natural for them to be respectful and courteous to her. They even bluntly said that if anyone in this group of doctors wanted to harm her, as long as the news spread out, that person would never have a foothold. Because Jing Yunjiao was now representing the Jing clan, she was no longer just a simple individual, but the leader of the group. When the group of old doctors heard this, they were instantly shocked. However, he did not suspect anything. They had seen Jing Yunjiao's performance these days and admired him in their hearts. Now that the Jing clan had a successor, and it was a genius like her, it was definitely a joyous occasion. No one would feel uncomfortable or even unable to accept it. However, each and every one of these old doctors also became respectful and respectful. They no longer chased after Jing Yunjiao's, but asked her questions like before. Their gazes were purely treating her as an elder of their generation. Being stared at by a group of old men, Jing Yunjiao actually felt a little creeped out. After Jing Yunjiao took over the Immortal Crane Hall, Yu Fu gave her the detailed information about the Immortal Crane Hall over the years, as well as the list of all the doctors under the Jing clan. She was shocked when she saw it. The Jing family had quite a number of disciples. Although some of them had already passed away, as long as their children and grandchildren learned medical books, they would be related to the Jing family. Therefore, the number was still very large and spread all over the world, even overseas. Among them, there were some who opened hospitals and built their own clinics. There were also some who were extremely famous and hard to find a doctor. You will have a chance to meet these people in the future. At that time, there is no need to be courteous. It is the Jing clan's fortune that they have today. Although you are young, But since you are the head of the Jing clan, no matter what, you are still a generation older than them. Yu Fu looked at her shocked expression and said in detail. Chapter 1132. Jing Yunzhao nodded, as if she had understood something. Many of these people had already established their own families. It had already been so many years. Wanting them to risk their lives for the Jing family might not be possible anymore. However, if she wanted them to help, it was definitely possible. They were all connections. Li Wenba had taken the Jing family's wealth, but he would never be able to take away the Jing family's power. Jing Yunzhao instantly received everyone's respect in the Crane Hall, and the Li family appeared in front of her again in less than 2 days. However, this time, it was her biological grandfather who had arrived. He had directly come to the school and even sat in the dean's reception room, openly waiting for her. Every time after school, Jing Yunzhao would follow Professor Imo for another 1 to 2 hours of Chinese martial arts class. Thus, she had completely ignored her biological grandfather and didn't go meet him. The strokes used by the Wang family's works are more free and unrestrained. If you want to learn the essence of his semi-cursive style, you have to study the person's character and life. As the saying goes, the words reflect the person. Imo Zhengyin was seriously pointing at the calligraphy she had just copied when the door to the classroom was pushed open. An old man walked in, and beside him was Shi Yijiao. "Hey, Jing Yunzhao, my grandfather is here to see you." Shi Yijiao shouted at Jing Yunzhao. Imo Zhengyin's voice was interrupted, and his face turned cold. He was a little unhappy and turned to glare. However, when he saw who it was, his expression turned from displeasure to anger. "Li Wenba, you still have the face to appear in front of me?" Li Wenba was also a little surprised, and a trace of disgust flashed across his eyes. Meanwhile, it was Jing Yunzhao's first time seeing the grandfather she had heard of countless times. He was already old, but his body was still strong. He was on the thin side, and although he was around 70 years old, he was still very energetic. He wore a suit and a pair of black-rimmed glasses. Although there was not much hair on his forehead, he looked very dignified. While Jing Yunzhao was sizing up her grandfather, Li Wenba was also looking at her. He was serious, mechanical, and emotionless, as if he was looking at an object. This kind of feeling was not pleasant at all. "Imo Zhengyin, are you her teacher?" Li Wenba asked without holding back. The old man's voice was a little low, and his face was dark. Imo Zhengyin had always had a bad temper. Now that the person he hated the most was standing in front of him and speaking to him with such an attitude, he felt disgusted. With a stiff face, he said, "It's been so many years, but you still stink." The thing he regretted the most in his life was giving up his beloved woman to this despicable person for the so-called dignity of a man. If he did not see Li Wenba die in front of him, he would not be at ease. "I don't have time to argue with you. I'm here to look for my granddaughter," Li Wenba said directly. When Imo Zhengyin heard this, he turned to look at Jing Yunzhao and frowned. "He's talking about you?" He was in disbelief. How could Li's granddaughter have the surname? "May I ask who you are?" Jing Yunzhao pretended to be confused and asked. Li Wenba lifted his leg and walked over. At this time, Jing Yunzhao noticed that there were actually other people following outside the door. Looking again, she saw a woman pushing a wheelchair in, and on the wheelchair was a man. This person, Jing Yunzhao immediately recognized him, even though she had never seen him before. Li Tianyi, her biological father, the person who denied her existence out of helplessness. Chapter 1133. Jing Yunzhao was a little agitated as she stared at Li Tianyi without letting go. This man seemed a little different from what others had described him to her. He didn't look like a gentle scholar. On the contrary, what she saw was indeed a gloomy person. His features were very eye-catching, and his eyes were long and slender. She could imagine how handsome he must have looked when he smiled. However, he was bony and skinny. His face was pale and bloodless, and his eyes were distant and cold. His hands were placed on his legs, and he didn't react at all. Even when he saw her, it was as if he didn't know her. Not only that, he looked a little old. He was clearly in his 40s, but he looked like he was in his 50s or 60s. Li Wenba walked in front of him and found a seat for himself. You're Yun Zhao, right? Li Wenba didn't mention her surname and only asked lightly. Jing Yunjiao was pulled out of her daze from staring at Li Tianyi. Jing Yunjiao. Li Wenba's old face was a little serious, but he said, I'm your grandfather. The person in the wheelchair next to me is your father. We're here to take you home. It was just a notice. There was no discussion, no apology. Jing Yunjiao pursed her lips and smiled. You say you're my grandfather, and you're? I don't even know your name or what you do. And you want me to go home with you? Old master, you're really not polite. But I think your family is short of children, and your family's bloodline is going to be cut short, right? Otherwise, why would you casually meet someone and try to claim kinship? Jing Yunjiao said venomously. As she spoke, there was no trace of sympathy or politeness in her expression. Despicable people didn't care about age or seniority. So what if he was her grandfather? She never minded being stingy with her eloquence when dealing with this kind of person. Nonsense. Li Wenba snorted and said, Why would I lie to you? Back then, your mother didn't behave properly and encouraged your father to elope with her. As a result, your father was completely crippled, and your mother reaped the consequences of her own actions. Even now, she can't be found. The Su family is arrogant, and the Su family is sinister. They even killed your uncle. If you continue to interact with the Su family, you'll be very unfilial. Li Wenba's words degraded Su Xianlan to the point that she had no moral character. Jing Yunjiao glanced at Li Tianyi and found that there was some hostility in his eyes. My mother didn't behave properly? Old master, don't you think so? Old master, he's a man's wife, and... She learned from old master and eldest uncle that Li Wenba's current wife, Lin Feng, was definitely his childhood sweetheart. If he hadn't taken the initiative to become the son-in-law of the Jing family, his first wife would have been Lin Feng. Li Wenba was a typical person who ate from the bowl and looked at the pot. Jing Yunjiao's words exposed Li Wenba's past. His entire face turned ugly. Shuri Jiao, who was standing beside him, didn't quite understand. Was this Jing Yunjiao crazy? What did she mean by saying that his wife had died 3 years ago and he was secretly having another wife? Was she implying that her grandmother was a mistress? That wasn't the case. It was said that Jing Yunjiao used his wealth and power to force her grandfather to marry her. Who knew that she had a bad life and died after giving birth to a son? Who could she blame? Chapter 11:34. Shuri Jiao was furious. She pointed at Jing Yunjiao and said angrily, What nonsense are you talking about? I think the Su family has brainwashed you, right? You're my grandfather's granddaughter, but you're siding with an outsider. You're really a wild child with no manners. Slap. Jing Yunjiao gave him a tight slap. Shuri Jiao was shocked by the pain on her face. She looked up at Jing Yunjiao and said angrily, You dare to hit me? After she finished speaking, she rushed forward like a madwoman, wanting to scratch Jing Yunjiao. How could Jing Yunjiao let her do as she pleased? She immediately grabbed her hair and threw the bitch out of the door. Her actions were ruthless, not leaving any leeway. Shuri Jiao was a little dazed from the beating. She was already 18 years old a few years ago. Since young, she had never suffered the slightest bit. Everyone in the family doted on her like a treasure. Who would dare to lay a finger on her? Jing Yunjiao, this cousin of hers who popped out of nowhere, didn't even say a few words and actually beat her up. How could she swallow this anger? Jing Yunjiao wouldn't show any mercy to Lin Feng's daughter and granddaughter. Li Wenba and Li Shuyuan were furious when she hit them. Enough, Li Wenba yelled. Why are you hitting and scolding a girl? What happened back then can't be explained in a short time. If you're not convinced, Grandpa will explain it to you. Why are you yelling at your cousin? Our family owes you all these years for letting you wander outside for so long. Grandpa will make it up to you if you want anything in the future. But you can't mess around like this. You should learn from the daughters of other families in the future. Li Wenba glanced at Imo Jingyin and said, Our Li family's granddaughter has a famous teacher to guide her. Professor Imo, you don't have to interfere in the future. Yunjiao, what's going on? You're Wanyue's granddaughter? Imo Zhengyin ignored Li Wenba's words and asked Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao nodded. That's right. As soon as she admitted it, Imo Zhengyin's expression changed. All these years, He had always felt that he had let Jing Wenyue down. Every time he thought of her son becoming a cripple and having no descendants, his heart felt like it was being cut by a knife. But now, Jing Yunzhao, the student he was most proud of, was actually Wenyue's descendant. How could he not be excited? However, Li Wenba hated Imo Zhongyin's look the most. It was as if he was reminding him that the reason Jing Wenyue had married him back then was because Imo Zhongyin had never compromised. Imo Zhongyin did not want to be the son-in-law, but he did. It was as if he, Li Wenba, was born to be inferior to others. Li Wenba, didn't you hear what Yun Zhao said? She was Wen Yu's granddaughter. What does it have to do with your Li family? Who the hell are you, Li Wenba? If you had fulfilled the agreement back then and allowed your son's surname to be Jing, I, Imo Zhongyin, would have been ashamed of my inferiority and would not have said anything in front of you. However, you are an ungrateful villain who changes his mind. How could someone like you deserve to be a grandfather? Bah. At this moment, Imo Zhongyin felt both physically and mentally comfortable. Li Wenba had been thinking about the descendants of the Jing family all day, but in the end, he still could not prevent it. Yun Zhao, don't you want to go home with Grandpa? As long as you go back, you can often see your father in the future. His health is not very good now. Are you sure you want to be an unfilial daughter? Li Wenba's face was ashen, but he still said patiently. Li Tianyi's gaze was cold, but Jing Yunzhao seemed to understand the deep meaning in his eyes. Chapter 11:35. Li Wenba was using her father to threaten her. She was a medical student and could tell that her father's appearance was the result of not being exposed to light for many years. Not only that, but because he rarely exercised, his body was very stiff and his muscles were somewhat atrophied. His face was pale, and he looked lifeless. The Li family was also a wealthy family. Logically speaking, her father shouldn't look like this no matter what. It could be seen that Li Wenba might not even care about his own son. Thinking about it, her father was now in his 40s and looked like an old man in his 50s or 60s. His lower body couldn't move at all. Moreover, he couldn't bear children for the Li family for nearly 20 years. Not only that, Li Wenba had to guard against him to prevent him from siding with the Jing family. It would be strange if he treated him well. Moreover, Li Wenba's second wife hadn't passed away yet. Facing her husband's child with another woman, it was even more impossible for her to treat him well. Moreover, Lin Feng's son had died indirectly because of her father. It was already a miracle that her father hadn't starved to death over these years. However, her father's eyes were cold. He definitely didn't want her to go to the Li family. My family's surname is Jing and Su, but not Li. Jing Yunzhao said resolutely. Li Wenba was dissatisfied, but he looked like a magnanimous grandfather. I can understand that you can't think straight now. I'll give you time to think about it. After saying that, he left in a mighty manner. Before leaving, Li Tianyi turned to look at her again, relief flashing through his eyes. All these years, he wanted to find his daughter more than anyone else. He was even afraid that he wouldn't be able to see her again in his lifetime. However, no matter how much he wanted to, he didn't dare to open his mouth. His father was a man who only cared about himself. Back then, in order to bring him back from Huaning County, he didn't hesitate to let someone break his leg. If he knew about his daughter's existence, he would definitely find her at all costs. When he raised her in the Li family, what would she be like? She would either be timid and weak, or be beaten to death by her stepmother. Everyone in the Li family was an outsider to his daughter. Why would she come back? As for the Su family, although he believed that they would treat his daughter well, he didn't dare to bet on who would find her first. Fortunately, the heavens favored Yun Zhao. Her surname was Jing, and her name was Yun Zhao. Although he didn't come up with this name, it was to his liking. Finally, there would be a day when the clouds would open and the world would be clear. At this time, Jing Yunzhao was thinking of a way to bring his biological father out of the Li family. This person was not difficult to save. After all, he was an adult man. As long as he was willing, he could do it openly. However, how could all these years of hard work be in vain? Jing Yunzhao's eyes flickered. No one knew what he was thinking. After staying with Professor Imo until the end of the class, she returned to her dormitory. However, not long after she arrived at the dormitory, someone downstairs called her name. Jing Yunjiao, someone is looking for you at the pavilion. It's a student from another school, the person downstairs said. Jing Yunjiao froze for a moment. Could it be Xiao Haiqing and the others? However, after thinking about it carefully, it was impossible. She, Xiao Haiqing, and Suchu all used their cell phones to communicate. There was no need for someone else to pass a message. Moreover, she didn't even know the person who passed the message. Jing Yunjiao thought it was useless. She simply went downstairs and walked to the pavilion. At this time, the campus was very lively. There were people everywhere, and the pavilion was even more so. When Jing Yunjiao arrived, she looked around for a long time but didn't see anyone familiar. She thought it was a prank by the student from earlier. However, just as she turned around and was about to leave, a boy walked out from a corner and called out, "Sister?" Chapter 1136. Under the dim streetlights, the person's face couldn't be seen clearly, but Jing Yunjiao recognized him the moment he turned around. Xiao Zizhou. This person that she had almost forgotten. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but smile. She let Pak Yuan and Qin Shui announce their identities to attract the Li family's attention, but she didn't expect that someone she hadn't seen for a long time would suddenly appear. Xiao Zizhou's studies were good, and as far as she knew, he was now studying at another university that was almost side by side with the university. Xiao Hongye's disappearance back then didn't affect him much, and he didn't even care about it. "So it's you," Jing Yunjiao said expressionlessly. Xiao Zizhou took a closer look at Jing Yunjiao and was somewhat stunned. He remembered that this sister of his wasn't like this in the past. Her face was covered in dirt, yellow and emaciated, and she looked listless. She was also quite weak, and her reputation wasn't good either. In short, she made him feel embarrassed, but he didn't know when it started. But the one who was embarrassed suddenly became his own sister, Xiao Hongye. And Jing Yunjiao's results were getting better and better. Not only did she leave the Qiao family, she even became the top scorer in the province. However, he didn't care about this at first. So what if she became more outstanding? She was still a girl. In the future, she would still have to find a boyfriend, get married, and then stay at home to take care of her husband and children. Those superior abilities would be completely wasted. Moreover, other than her good results, she didn't have any other good points. She wasn't worthy of his attention, as long as this person didn't make trouble for him and embarrass him. It was just that he recently heard some unbelievable news. Someone said that the boss behind Yunling Medicine and Yuling Wines was called Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao wasn't a common name, and Pak Yuan of Yuling Wines used to live near their house. So he thought about it and felt that the Jing Yunjiao that Pak Yuan was talking about was the same person as the sister in front of him. He never thought that there would be a day where he would be surprised and shocked by Jing Yunjiao. After all, she used to be so. "Sis, are you doing well?" Xiao Zizhou tried to make his voice as polite and gentle as possible. He also carefully recalled that he didn't seem to have done anything bad to Jing Yunjiao in the past. Even if Jing Yunjiao and the Qiao family had severed ties, he should still recognize him as his younger brother. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but want to laugh. After her rebirth, she had almost never interacted with Xiao Zizhou. It could be said that the two of them could be considered strangers. Back then, when she took revenge on Xiao Hongye and Xiao Weimin, the only reason she let him off was because he was obedient enough and didn't find trouble with her. She didn't expect that this person still couldn't hold back and ran to her face to ask if she was doing well. "What's the matter?" Jing Yunjiao had a faint smile on his face, and his eyes were filled with scrutiny. She wasn't in a hurry to throw him out, as if she was waiting for him to continue. This attitude made Xiao Zizhou's face burn. "It's nothing much. I'm your younger brother, so I came to see you," Xiao Zizhou said absent-mindedly, and then in a blink of an eye, he said, "Just now, I was at the school gate asking if anyone knew you. In the end, when they heard your name, they brought me in and helped me invite you over. Really, what a coincidence." He felt strange in his heart because when he mentioned the three words, Jing Yunjiao, that classmate directly asked who he was, so he told the truth that he was Jing Yunjiao's younger brother. However, the other party's face was filled with shock, and the way he looked at him suddenly became extremely strange. Chapter 1137. He tried to ask around and found out that Jing Yunjiao seemed to have found her family, but he didn't ask in detail. After all, Jing Yunjiao was lost in Huaning County. Her parents probably weren't that rich. If Jing Yunjiao was lucky, she should be from a well-off family. Xiao Zizhou thought a lot in his heart. Jing Yunjiao only smiled. She looked kind, but she knew what was going on. Xiao Zizhou's temper was the same as Qiao Weiman's. He was cold-hearted and extremely selfish. His personality was also more male chauvinistic. When he was in the Qiao family, he looked down on even his own sister, Qiao Hongye. He felt that girls were useless in their studies and should stay at home to take care of the family, do the laundry and cook. So when he ordered her around, Xiao Zizhou didn't feel the slightest bit of psychological pressure. This person didn't seem like a young man at all. His thoughts were more like an uncivilized old man. However, Xiao Zizhou's looks weren't bad. His handsomeness was impressive. He and Qiao Hongye were twins, so the two of them looked a little alike. Looking at his face, no matter what, Jing Yunjiao didn't have any good feelings towards him. "Oh right, sister, how are your results now? Do you still have a scholarship?" Xiao Zizhou saw that Jing Yunjiao didn't seem to want to talk to him, so he started to take the initiative to find a topic. And Jing Yunjiao nodded casually. If it was someone else, she might have just turned around and left. But Xiao Zizhou, she wanted to know what he was up to. "Sister, your luck is much better than mine. I've been especially unlucky recently. This semester's scholarship was cancelled," Xiao Zizhou said without a clue. He continued, "My dad. I don't know if you've seen his current appearance. I'm really disappointed in him. Our family's conditions were not bad at first, but he invested recklessly. Now we're so poor that we don't even have enough to eat. I've been working a few jobs recently for my living expenses." Xiao Zizhou's heart carried a trace of hope. His words were so straightforward. Jing Yunjiao should be able to understand, right? She already has a scholarship. Why does she still need your company? A girl, isn't it a waste? When she gets married, it'll all be given to her in-laws. What a loss. Jing Yunjiao wanted to laugh in his heart, but he had to play dumb. It's only right to work harder. After all, he's your father. "Sister, actually, I don't have to work so hard," Xiao Zizhou whispered. "Yeah, if you were studying at a university and were in the same department as me, I might have given you the scholarship. What a pity." Jing Yunjiao continued to play dumb. If others heard this, they would probably faint from laughter. Jing Yunjiao had made up her mind to play dumb until the very end. She looked like she was in a daze, causing Xiao Zizhou to stifle a mouthful of anger in his heart. It was neither up nor down, making him feel extremely uncomfortable. However, he boasted that he was a man, so he felt a little embarrassed to say it out loud. Thus, his face alternated between white and red. "I don't want that scholarship. Sis, I want to borrow more money from you. It's like this. My dad doesn't give me money anymore, and I don't have enough money from working, so I was wondering if you could help me first. Also, I recently got a girlfriend, and her family background is pretty good. In front of her, I seem a little too tasteless, so I want to improve my life. Sis, I only have you as a reliable relative now, so this time you have to help me." Xiao Zizhou's heart was beating like a drum, and he had been mulling over it for a long time before he finally said it. Chapter 11:38. However, rather than borrowing, he originally wanted to ask Jing Yunjiao to give him one of the two companies. Before he came, he had searched online and found out that Yuling Wines was now divided into two companies. One dealt with medicinal wine, the other dealt with fruit wine, red wine, and even grape wine. Yunling medicine was even more powerful. It was said that it had a strong background and made a lot of money every day. He was Jing Yunjiao's only younger brother. He was unwilling to watch Jing Yunjiao give away her assets to other men. As for her relatives, he had no feelings for them at all. In the past, it was the Qiao family who raised Jing Yunjiao. How could he let strangers take advantage of her? After thinking about it, he felt that he needed to remind Jing Yunjiao. Moreover, he wasn't greedy. He wasn't prepared to take all of those companies. Jing Yunjiao could give him one, and the rest could be used as a dowry. He could also give a portion to his parents for their retirement. Although it was a bit painful, he knew that the company was Jing Yunjiao's after all. He wouldn't interfere too much. Jing Yunjiao was a bit surprised at how thick-skinned Xiao Zizhou was. He hadn't seen her for a few years, and the first thing he asked for was money. Did he really think that money grew on trees? Or was he really her so-called younger brother? How much do you want to borrow? However, Jing Yunjiao still asked casually. Well, give me 200,000 for the time being. I want to buy some things first. It's time to change my phone. The ones my classmates use are the latest models. Mine is very old and many people laugh at it. Xiao Zizhou said. The corner of Jing Yunjiao's mouth twitched. 200,000? What a rich young master. What kind of things would a student need 200,000 to buy? Although she hadn't been short of money for a long time, she never squandered it casually. Her daily living expenses were pitiful. She was a relatively frugal person. Her money was always used in useful places. She would never use it for pleasure, unless it was a special situation. This Xiao Zizhou was amazing. He was poor but not poor. Why aren't you saying anything? Sister, do you want to give it to me or not? Xiao Zizhou frowned and was a bit unhappy. It was only 200,000 yuan. With such a big company under her, not to mention 200,000 yuan, she would have 2 billion yuan, or even more. He knew how to read the financial news. Usually, there was a lot of news about the two big companies. He was not stupid. How could he not know? Jing Yunjiao was speechless. If you want money, go to your sister. I'm not your nanny or servant now. I don't have time to serve you. Jing Yunjiao finally opened her mouth and said coldly. The cold wind outside was blowing gently, and it could clear one's mind. Sis, I didn't ask for much. You're so rich. What's wrong with giving me a little? Xiao Zizhou saw Jing Yunjiao's cold expression and became anxious. Why was this person so unreasonable? There was so much money to spend. Shouldn't it be given to him? Who told you I have money? Jing Yunjiao sneered. It's all over the place now. The boss behind Yuling Wine and Yunling Medicine is called Jing Yunjiao. You also know Pak Yuan. If that person isn't you, who else could it be? Xiao Zizhou questioned. Is there something wrong with your brain? When Yuling Wine was established, I was only 15 years old. Do you think that's possible? I don't have any money, and speaking of which, I'm actually very poor. Since you keep saying that you're teaching my sister, then why don't you lend me a bit? Jing Yunjiao asked in return, looking at him with eyes full of disdain and ridicule. When Xiao Zizhou heard this, he became anxious. That person really wasn't her? Chapter 11:39. His eyes kept sizing up Jing Yunjiao, a little disappointed and a little disbelieving. He kept feeling that Jing Yunjiao was purposely lying to him. After all, how could there be such a coincidence to meet someone with the same name? But thinking about it carefully, according to what she said, when Yuling Wines was established, she was still in high school. Her studies were usually so heavy. So how could she multitask and start a company? Xiao Zizhou sighed, extremely disappointed. It was as if the money in his hands was gone. It really wasn't you? Xiao Zizhou asked again, and then said, You made me happy for nothing. I thought you were so powerful, but thinking about it, you're a girl. No matter how capable you are, you can't reach such heights. How could you do something that even men can't do? Xiao Zizhou's belittling of women was learned from Qiao Weiman's father. It was deeply ingrained. Jing Yunjiao only looked at this kind of person with disdain, and then turned to leave. However, Xiao Zizhou hurriedly stepped forward. If you don't have 200,000, then lend me 5,000 first. You used to work to earn money, so you should have some now, right? I won't change my phone, but I want to fall in love, so I can't work part-time. Help me. Oh, right. I remember that my father and sister mentioned before that you sold ginseng in Huaning County and made a lot of money, right? Was that thing real? Do you have any money left? If there's any left, give it to me. It's useless for you to keep it anyway. These words were natural. Jing Yunjiao felt angry and amused at the same time. In her previous life, Xiao Zizhou had watched her work like a cow for the Qiao family, giving away every cent she earned. If she kept it for herself, he would even think that she had done a terrible thing, just like those women in ancient times who didn't abide by virtue of virtue. He couldn't wait to drag her out and drown her in a pig cage. If she hadn't grown up with Xiao Zizhou, She wouldn't have dared to believe that there was such a self-righteous man in this world. You're done talking and making a fuss. You don't have to come here in the future. Not a single cent of the money I earn will be yours, Jing Yunjiao said coldly. If it's not mine, who are you going to give it to? Don't tell me you're keeping the flowers for yourself? After Qiao Zizhou finished speaking, he stared at Jing Yunjiao's clothes and suddenly said unhappily, Your clothes are all branded. Why did you buy such expensive clothes? Clothes are all made of cloth. You can wear them even if they are a little ugly. Do you need to look at the brand? When Jing Yunjiao heard him, she looked at him in surprise. It was as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. At this moment, he even felt that Qiao Zizhou was too interesting to be able to say such a thing. Qiao Zizhou had always been prideful since he was young. Everything he had was the best. In the past, the Qiao family was not bad. Yi Qin and Qiao Weimin were not stingy with him. A single piece of clothing cost more than 100 yuan. When he was young, that was a very expensive price. When he was in high school, from top to bottom, everything had to be branded. His entire outfit cost a few thousand yuan. This kind of price was not something an ordinary family could afford. It could be said that the money spent on his clothes was comparable to the annual expenses of other families' children. But now, he was actually scolding her for buying branded clothes. Only officials were allowed to set fires, but commoners were not allowed to light lamps. Moreover, most of the clothes she was wearing were given to her by others. If she had gone shopping herself, she wouldn't have been so extravagant. Most importantly, even if she wore clothes made of gold, what did it have to do with him? Chapter 1140. Jing Yunjiao took a deep breath and looked at the strange creature in front of her. She really had the urge to go up and give it a good kick. However, she was a civilized person. In front of so many people, she would definitely restrain herself. Jing Yunjiao shook her head and lifted her feet to leave. Seeing Jing Yunjiao suddenly leave, Qiao Zizhou panicked and was very angry. Jing Yunjiao, what kind of upbringing are you? Why did you ignore me when I was talking to you? Her name was already famous in a university. Now that Qiao Zizhou opened his mouth to call her name, the young couples in the pavilion couldn't help but look at them a few more times. Jing Yunjiao dusted her clothes and looked at Qiao Zizhou with a smile. My upbringing is not to argue with a mad dog. I also don't act like a jealous mad dog who opens her mouth to ask for money. Who are you calling a mad dog? Qiao Zizhou's face flushed red. He had always cared about his face. To be called a mad dog in front of so many people was a shameful thing to him, so he was instantly furious. Hey, you are. Jing Yunjiao smiled lightly, but her smile was extremely cold. Qiao Zizhou clenched his fists and felt a little angry. This anger came from the slander of his dignity. He was a man and always remembered that he was a man. Any other people with the same surname who were richer and more powerful than him could look down on him like this, but a woman like Jing Yunjiao definitely couldn't. Moreover, back in the day, Jing Yunjiao was only a little maid in his family who did laundry and cooked. If he told her to go east, she would never dare to go west. She was no different from a slave. But now, this little slave suddenly had thorns all over her body and became even more arrogant than him. No matter what, he wouldn't agree. Qiao Zizhou directly rushed forward and said as he walked, I think it's because I haven't taught you a lesson in a long time that your skin is itchy, right? Don't think that I don't hit women. Just a moment ago, she was still calling her sister, and the next moment, she turned hostile. It could be said that it was a wonderful drama. When the students around saw that someone actually dared to challenge Jing Yunjiao, they were instantly interested and shocked. Was this person crazy? If he offended Jing Yunjiao, her two uncles could directly throw him out of the capital. Stop. Suddenly, a voice of support came from the side. Although Jing Yunjiao didn't want to give Qiao Zizhou a beating, he definitely couldn't let Qiao Zizhou come out unscathed. Just as he was about to make a move, someone stepped forward to help and helped the guy in front of him instead. Who are you? Why are you so fierce to Yunjiao? Han Nin strode over and stood in front of Jing Yunjiao. He spoke to Qiao Zizhou with a heroic look on his face. If Jing Yunjiao was an ordinary person and didn't have a boyfriend, he might be grateful for Han Nan's actions. But he wasn't. This wasn't the first time she made a move in front of others. Han Nan clearly knew that she wasn't someone to be trifled with. Trying to play the hero now was a bit too much. "Who are you?" Xiao Zizhou asked. He looked at Jing Yunzhao and said, "You have a boyfriend? It wasn't easy for you to get into a university. Instead of studying hard, you're in the mood to date? Did you give all your money to this guy in front of you?" When Xiao Zizhou thought of the things that originally belonged to him being taken away by another man, he was instantly furious. He looked at Han Nan with eyes full of anger, as if he would rush forward and beat him up at any moment. Chapter 1141. Han Nan's face was flushed red, especially when the boy in front of him said that he was Jing Yunzhao's boyfriend. He felt as if his blood was flowing even more freely. Romance. His biggest dream now was to spend the rest of his college days with her, then step down the aisle of marriage. "Yunzhao is mine. What does it have to do with you whether she gives me her money or not? Don't tell me you're one of Yunzhao's suitors. I'm telling you, you should give up. She'll never like you in this lifetime. Also, if you dare to appear in front of Yunzhao again, don't blame me for being rude," Han Nan said, trying to show off. He felt a sense of satisfaction when he said those words. He had long wanted to tell everyone that Jing Yunzhao was his woman. "You two lunatics, get out of my sight." However, Jing Yunzhao didn't appreciate it in the slightest. She ruthlessly kicked Han Nan's lower back, causing him to lose control and fall forward. In an instant, he pushed the defenseless Xiao Zizhou to the ground. The two people's faces seemed to be glued together, making them look extremely ambiguous and strange. Xiao Zizhou was also a man. Since the other party had made the first move, how could he hold back? He flipped Han Nan over and punched him. Han Nan's face was pained, but he didn't back down. He reached out and pinched Xiao Zizhou. Everyone looked again. The two were huddled together, punching and kicking. They even used their nails. Under the dim street lights, they could see the bloody scars on their faces. It was a shocking scene, but also a bit exciting. Jing Yunzhao glanced at them coldly and walked away. She couldn't be bothered to deal with them. One was arrogant, the other was a pervert. The two of them fought to save her energy. Jing Yunzhao quickly returned to the dormitory as if nothing had happened. However, Hua Tianxian and the others were waiting for the video. They laughed and said, "How come the two of them don't look strong at all? They're like clowns. It's not even as good as a fight between women." These days, information spread quickly. Jing Yunzhao guessed that someone had posted the scene at the pavilion on the internet, so he wasn't surprised. "Why are you so happy when you don't look good?" Jing Yunzhao said casually. Hua Tianxian and Yao Baobao immediately ran in front of her. "Tell me, how does it feel to have two men fighting over you? Also, who is this handsome guy?" The handsome young man Hua Tianxian was pointing at was Xiao Zizhou. However, when Jing Yunzhao thought of using these three words to describe Xiao Weiman too, he instantly felt disgusted. He looked at Hua Tianxian with a strange expression, as if he was disgusted by her rather serious taste. "What's wrong?" Hua Tianxian was puzzled. "He's the son of my foster parents, Xiao Zizhou. He's here to ask for money," Jing Yunzhao explained simply. When the three of them heard this, they immediately perked up. Yao Baobao quickly said, "He knows you're the big boss?" This was the first time the three of them had seen Xiao Zizhou, but they were certain that he wasn't a good person. After all, they hadn't seen him come looking for Jing Yunzhao in a long time. Now that Jing Yunzhao had announced her identity, he actually came looking for her. How thick-skinned. Jing Yunzhao didn't explain much, but the three of them instantly understood. Therefore, when they watched the video again, they couldn't help but want the two of them to strangle each other. Jing Yunzhao was now a university's famous campus belle. As long as there was even the slightest movement related to her, there would be people discussing it in private. Moreover, she was definitely the most famous junior in recent years. 2 days after Han Nan and Xiao Zizhou's fight, Jing Yunzhao felt a lot quieter. This was because Han Nan had applied for leave and was still in the hospital. Chapter 1142. However, the peaceful days didn't last long. A few days later, Han Nan's parents suddenly showed up at the school. Han Nan was a native of the capital. His family wasn't exactly wealthy, but it was still decent. His parents were ordinary. The two of them couldn't find Jing Yunzhao when they arrived at school, so they decided to go to Jing Yunzhao's dormitory and quickly asked someone to help them find her. However, Jing Yunzhao was staying at the Su family's house that day, so she didn't know about it. My dear daughter, you can't be like this. Because of you, our Han Nan was beaten to a pulp. He won't even eat a bite. You should go see him. Han Nan's mother was heartbroken. Tears rolled down her cheeks as she yelled at the top of her lungs. She was still in the dormitory, and there were a lot of people coming and going. It was after school. So many students were resting in the dormitory. Although her voice wasn't very loud, it was definitely heard by many. However, she didn't mention any names, so no one took it to heart. They just looked down and didn't pay attention. Jing Yunzhao, my son was hurt because of you. You can't be so heartless. Our Han family isn't a rich family, and we can't compare to Mayor Su, but we've treated you well. That brat Han and doesn't mind the messy things you did in the past, and even got into a fight because of you. Why didn't you even go to the hospital? Father Han shouted from the side, full of anger and agitation. The girls in the dormitory stared at him with wide eyes. They couldn't believe their ears. I've never heard of him, right? Is the person downstairs talking about Jing Yunzhao? Such voices could be heard everywhere in the dormitory. Within a few seconds, almost everyone rushed to the balcony to look down. They saw the parents with their heads raised. One was in tears, the other was angry. They looked quite pitiful. Hey, who's Han Nan? A girl in one of the dormitory asked a classmate next to her. How would I know? Everyone was confused. There were quite a number of people who liked Jing Yunzhao. Many of them were seniors in their third and fourth years, and there was no lack of influential people. However, everyone knew that Jing Yunzhao didn't leave any leeway for any of the boys. Even if the confession was shocking enough to make ghosts and gods weep, Jing Yunzhao was still as cold and calm as ever. Her face was indifferent, and she only replied with a few words. Sorry, I already have a boyfriend. So far, no one knew who her boyfriend was, but they also didn't know where the rumor came from. The man wasn't young and Jing Yunzhao was probably in a political marriage, so the two of them couldn't be separated. As for Han Nan, other than Jing Yunzhao's classmates, no one else knew where he came from. But judging from his unfamiliar name, he probably didn't participate in many club activities and didn't have many achievements. He didn't even catch the attention of the professors or attract the attention of the girls. Otherwise, he would at least have some reputation. A university was full of talented people. Many of them started their own businesses while they were still in school. Some of them received rare job opportunities, and some of them even published papers that won prestigious awards. These people were the real geniuses. Han Nan was just one of the ordinary people in the crowd. At this moment, everyone was curious as to who this Han Nan was. The woman of the couple suddenly knelt down. Jing Yunzhao, Auntie is begging you. You guys are still. Please don't dump my son. He's done so much for you. If it wasn't for you, my son wouldn't be able to continue living. Chapter 11:43. Mother Han's kneeling shocked everyone. Actually, they didn't believe that there was anything going on between Jing Yunzhao and Han Nan. After all, she was the dignified Mayor Su's niece. In the future, she could definitely become the wife of a wealthy family. No matter how bad her eyesight was, it wouldn't be so bad that she would fall for a nobody. But if Jing Yunzhao really didn't have anything going on with Han Nan, why would his parents be so? Just as everyone's curiosity was piqued, they saw a bright arc flash across the sky. With a crash, the Han family's parents suddenly became a drowned rat. Although the weather in March and April was getting warmer, the sudden splash of cold water was enough to make the two suffer. If you can't live, then die. Don't come here and disgust our Jing Yunzhao. How dare you say that Han Nan is our Jing Er's boyfriend? You're fucking bullshit. Let me tell you, if you dare to spout nonsense again, don't even think about living in the capital. Hua Tianxian was fuming. After the splash of water, she was still a little unhappy. She yelled at the top of her lungs. These two shamelessly tried to take advantage of me. 100 yuan for a basin of water. You can claim it when you're done splashing it. I, Hua Tianxian, am on the 5th floor. I won't go back on my word. As soon as Hua Tianxian said this, Yao Baobao joined in the fun. You have to hit the mark. There were only a few hundred people in this building. Even if someone claimed the money, she could still afford it. Hua Tianxian had always been a spendthrift. Based on her temper, money was secondary. If anyone dared to bully her, she would smash them to death even if she had to throw all her money at them. After the two made a ruckus, Yao Baobao demonstrated it herself. Yao Baobao held a basin of water, aimed it at the couple, and splashed it again. Instantly, the couple screamed. It was just splashing water, and it wouldn't cause a scene of resignation. Everyone was bored to death, and they were all happy to participate. They just treated it as a joke. Moreover, everyone felt that Jing Yunjiao was indeed quite pitiful to be entangled by such a group of enemies. All of a sudden, one could only see a parabola coming towards the husband and wife. Mother Han didn't even have time to stand up before she felt the cold dampness all over her body. Let me tell you, Jing Yunjiao's boyfriend is the best in the world. Your Han Nan is a toad who wants to eat swan meat. If he harasses her again, I'll make sure he can't go to school anymore. Hua Tianxian roared. Then, she giggled as she watched the couple flee in a sorry state. Father Han and Mother Han were drenched from head to toe. Along the way, they had attracted a lot of attention. They had lost all their face. Today, the main reason they came was to help their son chase Jing Yunjiao. Jing Yunjiao was a stubborn person. Their son was so outstanding and had always treated her with sincerity, but that girl still didn't agree. She didn't even care when he got into a fight with someone else. Jing Yunjiao had Mayor Su behind her, so of course they didn't dare to do anything rash. But thinking about it carefully, she was just a niece, not a daughter. If her reputation was ruined, everyone would know that she and Han Nan were a couple. Then, Han Nan would be the only one who could win her heart, right? As long as she tried to get along with their son, she would definitely know their son's good points. It was a pity that the two of them thought so simply. They didn't expect that there would be such a shrew in Jing Yunjiao's dorm. At this time, Hua Tianxian, who was called a shrew by the Han family's parents, was sitting on a chair and eating melon seeds. Chapter 1144. Hua Tianxian was a woman of her word. She even prepared a thick stack of money, but no one came to claim it. The students in the building were just there for fun, not for the money. However, she never liked to owe others. After thinking about it, she brought Yao Baobao and Ren Xingyue to the school supermarket to buy countless snacks. They almost emptied the supermarket stock. Then, she asked a group of students to deliver the snacks one by one. It was also a way to make friends and thank everyone for their kindness. Although Hua Tianxian was arrogant and willful, she was more honest and sincere. The others felt very comfortable seeing her and did not have any bad feelings towards her. Hua Tianxian, you said that Jing Yunjiao has a boyfriend. Is that true? When the snacks were delivered upstairs, a female student gossiped. Of course it's true. Otherwise Jing wouldn't use this method every time she rejects someone, Hua Tianxian said. Have you seen him? A few people in the dormitory instantly surrounded her with curiosity. Who was Jing Yunjiao? She was now a goddess in the school. People could only look at her from afar and never dare to get close to her. Her cold temperament could freeze people to death. Other than her roommates and classmates, no one dared to get close to her. They could not believe that such a girl actually had a boyfriend. I've seen him. Hua Tianxian deliberately stopped halfway. When they heard this, their eyes instantly widened a little. Is he handsome? Is he really very old like the rumors say? Of course not. Jing Er's boyfriend is only in his 20s. He's handsome, rich, and gentle to her. Oh right, every time she goes back to the Su family, it's her boyfriend who picks her up. If you don't believe me, you can wait at the school gate and you'll know, Hua Tianxian said honestly. She was trying her best to help Jing Yunjiao refute the rumors. She said it with a serious face. Everyone nodded their heads and was tempted. There were always a few eye-catching boys and girls in this school, and Jing Yunjiao was at the top of the pyramid. It was normal for people to be curious about her. However, what happened just now was still a little upsetting, so Hua Tianxian and the others didn't tell Jing Yunjiao about it. After all, they had already chased them away. However, the next morning, when Jing Yunjiao went to school, she felt that something was wrong. It seemed like the students were coming earlier than before, and there were also more of them. Especially when she appeared, It was as if everyone's gazes were on her with fiery gazes. She was familiar with these people. They were people she often saw when she went up and down the stairs. Other than that, there seemed to be some guys who had confessed to her before. What was going on? Jing Yunjiao drove himself here today because Li Xiaoyun and his buddies were out on a mission. Second uncle, on the other hand, was still busy dealing with the information about his company that Shanxi had revealed to him. He hadn't returned home all night. The car she drove was the one that was given to her as a meeting gift. It was a very flashy model. There were countless young ladies from wealthy families in a university, and all kinds of fancy cars were commonly seen, so she didn't think too much about it. Moreover, she had arrived early, so logically speaking, no one should have seen her driving such a fancy car to school. But now, why did you drive yourself here? What Tianxian, who was sitting in the breakfast room next door and staring outside, quickly asked. She frowned, and her expression was interesting. What do you mean? The atmosphere today doesn't seem right? Jing Yunjiao was still a little dazed. Chapter 11:45. Hua Tianxian licked her lips, feeling a little embarrassed. She then put her hand on Jing Yunjiao's shoulder and said with a smile, "Actually, it's nothing. I just accidentally told others that your young masterly will be sending you to school. So that's quite a lot of people." Jing Yunjiao blushed with shame. You know, too, news spreads quickly in school, Hua Tianxian said with a flattering smile. 2 hours after they finished talking yesterday, almost everyone in the building knew about Jing Yunjiao's matter. Every student had their own friends, and among those friends, there would always be some who paid close attention to Jing Yunjiao. Because of this, the news spread out, so the number of people who came to see Jing Yunjiao's boyfriend increased by quite a lot. Unfortunately, Jing Yunjiao did not come with young Masterly this time. Jing Yunjiao shook his head helplessly. Xiaoyun just happened to have something to do abroad. He probably won't be coming for a while. Hua Tianxian's mouth twitched when she heard that. What a coincidence. This group of people who were eyeing covetously might think that she, the great Miss Hua, was trying to trick them. However, this could not be blamed on Jing Yunjiao. Hua Tianxian could only accept her fate. You're really generous. There are only 20 of this model in the world, right? How did you get it? Can you take me out for a walk after school? Also, didn't you say that you wanted to treat us to something at U Tianxian last time? Hua Tianxian stared at Jing Yunjiao's car eagerly. Jing Yunjiao laughed and nodded. Sure, I'll ask Shanghai Qing to come along. As they spoke, the two of them walked side by side to school. The students were somewhat disappointed that they didn't see Jing Yunjiao's mysterious boyfriend. However, this was just a small matter of gossip. It wasn't enough to have a big impact. About 20 minutes later, Han Nan, who had disappeared for several days, finally showed up. His face and neck were covered in scratches, and his face was bruised. He attracted a lot of attention as soon as he arrived, especially since it was no secret that his parents had caused a ruckus in the dormitory yesterday. Many girls looked down on him. They were all young people, and feelings were hard to explain. But no matter what, they shouldn't let their parents step in. The parents' voices were so loud, and they were talking nonsense in front of so many people. Even if it was fake, it could become real. If this happened to any girl, the impact would not be small. If the girl was thin-skinned and did not know how to resist, she would not be prepared to be forced into a corner by her parents. In the past, Han Nan's classmates still had some respect for him. After all, he was the class monitor, and he was a very amiable person. But now, they felt that he was a complete mommy's boy. Moreover, he was a grown man. Just because his face was scratched, he had to go to the hospital and stay for a few days. It was really embarrassing. Jing Yunjiao acted as if she didn't see him. Han Nan's face was pale, and he kept his head down for the whole day. He knew that his parents had returned home in despair, and he was furious. He didn't expect Jing Yunjiao's roommate to do such a thing. He loved her so much, but she threw his feelings out like trash. She even ignored his parents. She wasn't like this in the past. When she wasn't Mayor Su's niece, she would still talk to him. Although she always kept her distance, she was not as cold and disgusted as she was now. What was wrong with him? Han Nan couldn't figure it out. For the whole day, he held the pin that he had planned to give to Jing Yunjiao. His heart was filled with resentment. Chapter 1146. Jing Yunjiao was very sensitive to other people's hostility. At this time, she also felt Han Nan's slightly resentful gaze. Han Nan was a man like Han Nan. Before he met any obstacles, he was definitely a good young man. He was young, promising, handsome, and sunny. According to his normal development, he would marry a cute and sensible girl and live a life that was worse than the best but better than the worst. However, the details determined success or failure. This person was too narrow-minded. Or it could be said that his tolerance was too poor. Or maybe it was because he was once pursued by girls, which made him feel a little proud. He felt that whoever he liked, it had to be him. From the way he talked to her in the past, she could tell that he grew up being praised by his parents. Jing Yunjiao wasn't afraid of what Han Nan would do behind her back. As long as he dared to touch her bottom line, no matter what his intentions were, she wouldn't let him go. In the afternoon, Jing Yunjiao took the girls out for lunch as promised. However, only Hua Tianxian and Yao Baobao were with them in the same dorm because Ren Xingyue was busy writing. Her books were selling like hotcakes, and it was said that she was even in talks to film and television. Ren Xingyue usually kept a low profile, but in reality, once she said that she had written an article, half of the students in this school would become her fans. Her father was an artist, and her mother was a rich young lady who liked to read and write. The last thing she lacked was artistic talent and logical thinking. She had an unexpected talent in this area. Ren Xingyue didn't want to go, so Jing Yunjiao called Xiao Haiqing. Unfortunately, Su Chu had an appointment with someone else, so she couldn't go. Yu Tianxian was a bit far from a university. Otherwise, Jing Yunjiao would have taken the girls there already. Hua Tianxian held her phone and said casually, "I looked it up. This Yu Tianxian seems to be very popular. It hasn't been in the capital for long, but I heard that it's squeezing all the nearby restaurants out of business." He was already craving for it. As soon as he opened Yu Tianxian's page, it was filled with introductions about the dishes. He could almost smell the fragrance of the dishes through the screen. Most importantly, the dishes looked extremely classy. Just like Jing Yunjiao said, it felt like a palace banquet. Yao Baobao was a glutton. When she heard about food, she couldn't move her eyes away. She stared at the screen and almost drooled. "Don't turn it off. I haven't seen enough." As soon as Hua Tianxian put the phone away, baby Yao became anxious. "You only know how to eat. You might as well marry a chef in the future." Hua Tianxian couldn't help but laugh. She casually teased Jing "How old is your imperial chef friend? Do you have a wife? If it doesn't work, we'll just send Bao Bao to that imperial chef to be his wife." "Hua Tianxian, you're the wife of a duck restaurant. I don't like to eat duck." Yao Baobao's face turned red when she heard that. Hua Tianxian was stunned. She exchanged glances with Xiao Haiqing. In the next second, she burst out laughing. "Duck restaurant? Bao Bao, what are you thinking about? I couldn't tell. You usually only know how to act cute and cute. I didn't expect your heart to be so rotten. But since you're so interested, I'll take you to the most famous restaurant to see handsome guys. You can buy whichever one you like. Is that okay?" Yao Baobao immediately realized that she had misheard. So Hua Tianxian meant to be the wife of a bandit, but just now, she pouted and didn't say anything. She looked like a bun. Chapter 1147. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but want to laugh. With these friends, it was much more fun. She couldn't keep a straight face even if she wanted to. Not long after, the car stopped. Jing Yunjiao's car attracted a lot of attention, especially the 4 beautiful girls who came out of the car. Everyone's attention was focused on her. There was a huge parking lot near Yu Tianxian, and there was a shopping mall nearby. There were more than 10 restaurants of various sizes nearby. There was even a faint smell of alcohol on the road. The fragrance was very strong in Jing Yunjiao's nose. Jing Yunjiao had already mentioned it to Du Lin in the morning, so when she entered the restaurant, she was directly taken to the elegant room upstairs. Du Lin appeared in front of her in a short while. Jing Yunjiao hadn't seen him in a long time. Even though Yu Tianxian's goods were sent by her, she had taken over a lot of land, so the things she planted were more than enough for Yu Tianxian's needs. Normally, Du Lin would send people to collect the goods himself, so there was no need for her to do anything. Of course, Du Lin could also cultivate vegetables without using Jing Yunzhao's name. However, the seeds in Jing Yunzhao's hands were different from the ones outside. Otherwise, with the quality of the air and the condition of the land outside, it would be impossible to cultivate such delicious raw materials. Although the space had always been stable, she didn't want her businesses to be affected when she reached a certain age and the next bloodline couldn't activate it. After all, the space and the outside world were two different worlds. Therefore, she tried her best to shift the focus of her businesses to the outside world. Little sister Yunzhao, you finally remembered me. I thought you forgot that I'm your partner. Du Lin said with a smile as soon as he appeared. He was wearing a white chef's uniform and a hat. Jing Yunzhao felt that it was quite refreshing. When Du Lin cooked in the past, he didn't pay so much attention. Xiao Haiqing had seen Du Lin before, so she wasn't surprised. However, Hua Tianxian and Yao Baobao were surprised. They didn't expect the owner of Yu Tianxian to be so young. He was only in his 20s. Why are you dressed so standard today? Jing Yunzhao looked up and smiled. Of course it's to welcome a distinguished guest like you. By the way, all the dishes on your table today were personally prepared by me. Moreover, they are all new dishes. I guarantee that you'll be satisfied, Du Lin added. Yao Baobao blushed instantly. She didn't know why, but she suddenly remembered what Hua Tianxian had said. It was all her fault. Classmate, your face is so red. Are you heaty? Don't worry, Big Brother will prepare a bowl of sweet soup for you later. Du Lin said casually. He often had to interact with guests, so sometimes he talked a little too much. However, he usually knew his limits, and today, he didn't treat Baby Yao and the others as outsiders. In his opinion, Jing Yunzhao was his sister, and her friends were naturally the same. Since they were here, there was no need to be polite. However, Yao Baobao's face turned even redder, and she lowered her head. Hua Tianxian watched from the side and was overjoyed. Yao Baobao was thin-skinned and couldn't stand being teased at all. Du Lin quickly left the private room to focus on cooking. Yao Baobao's face was still red even after a few minutes. Even Jing Yunzhao couldn't stand it anymore and asked, Baobao, have you really fallen for dudage? No. Yao Baobao hurriedly waved her hand and knocked over the teacup in front of her in her panic. Pfft, you still deny it? Do you think I'm blind? Hua Tianxian laughed mischievously. Baobao, this isn't something to be embarrassed about. Moreover, this Big Brother Du is not bad. He can cook a lot of delicious food. His ancestors were even imperial chefs. I guarantee that he'll feed you until you're white and fat. Chapter 1148. Yao Baobao looked as if she couldn't wait to find a hole to crawl into. Even her ears were red. Hua Tianxian didn't mind watching the show and laughed until her stomach hurt. Even Jing Yunzhao started to pity Yao Baobao. Stop laughing at her. I can hear her heartbeat from a few steps away. Are you going to take responsibility if her heart jumps out? Jing Yunzhao said with a smile. Hua Tianxian pursed her lips and twitched. Yao Baobao's eyes were a little flustered. She was too embarrassed to raise her head. When she finally felt that she had calmed down, the dishes were served one after another. She was immediately attracted by the aroma. Jing Yunzhao had never tried these dishes before. She knew how to cook, but most of the dishes were medicinal. Although the taste was good, it was definitely not as good as the dishes made by Du Lin. The carvings were so exquisite that one did not know how to eat them. However, Yao Baobao did not feel any pressure as she ate. She seemed to have forgotten what had just happened. She did not hold back and ate one mouthful after another. The ingredients of each dish were fresh and different from the ones she usually ate. They were authentic. After eating, her stomach felt very comfortable. Hua Tianxian finally understood why Yu Tianxian's business was so good. It was unbelievable that such a big restaurant was almost full. How's the taste? After all the dishes were served, Du Lin ran over and asked with anticipation. Jing Yunzhao nodded. It's very good, that's good. It's just that the quantity is too little. Du Lin had just answered happily when Yao Baobao added. The other three people's mouths twitched. She was the one who ate the most today. Did she think that it wasn't enough? The next time you guys come, I'll definitely increase the quantity, Du Lin said quickly. He also thought that this girl was cute. Big Brother Du, Your business is getting better and better. You must be planning to open more branches in the future, right? Jing Yunzhao suddenly asked. Du Lin was a little flattered. Jing Yunzhao used to be a person of few words, especially when young Master Li was around every time he saw her. The communication between the two was actually limited. I want to do a good job, so I'm not in a hurry. Take it slow, Du Lin said. Yu Tianxian's income was very high now. There was almost no day that they were not full. There were several floors in the building, and the prices of the dishes were very high. Other restaurants could not compare to them. Aren't you going to find a lady boss to take care of the house for you? Big Brother Du is not young anymore. Uncle Du must be very anxious, right? Jing Yunzhao said without leaving a trace. As soon as she said that, Yao Baobao, who had been eating and drinking, immediately started chewing and swallowing slowly. She suddenly became serious, and her eyes seemed to be covered with a layer of mist as she secretly glanced at Du Lin. I have a girlfriend, Du Lin suddenly said. Yao Baobao was stunned. The next second, she heard him say, It's the big spoon that I usually use. As soon as he finished speaking, Yao Baobao heaved a sigh of relief. Jing Yunzhao couldn't help but laugh. After sitting down, he glanced at Jing Yunzhao and said curiously, Yunzhao, why do you suddenly want to care about my private affairs? Don't tell me you want to be a matchmaker? If there's really someone suitable, I'll definitely be happy to meet her. He was not young anymore. In the past, when his career was not successful, he did not have the heart to talk about love. Now, he did have the time. However, most girls did not like the smell of cooking oil, but he liked to cook. Although he was a boss, he was also a chef. It was inevitable that he would have the smell of cooking. There were not many people who could accept it. Chapter 1149. Jing Yunzhao could clearly feel Yao Baobao's tense state, but before she could say anything, Hua Tianxian asked with a smile, Big Brother Du, what kind of girl do you like? Someone who can eat and drink in big mouthfuls, not someone who's too skinny. Treasuring food, character depends on fate, Du Lin said. He was a chef. When he was learning from his father, the thing he couldn't accept the most was waste. Sometimes, when he saw girls dieting in order to lose weight, he was a little annoyed. Although most men nowadays liked women with enchanting and hot bodies, he was the opposite. He felt that a girl with some skin on her body was healthy enough. However, Hua Tianxian felt that Du Lin was talking about Yao Baobao. Yao Baobao's body wasn't extremely skinny. It could only be considered exquisite and pocket-sized. She loved to eat and play, and when she saw some delicious food, she couldn't even walk. Big Brother Du's standards are similar to our family's Baobao. Why don't the two of you make a pair? Hua Tianxian said deliberately. Du Lin was stunned for a moment. He turned his head to look at Yao Baobao and found that she was looking at him with a pair of round eyes. Her face was as red as a cooked shrimp, and her mouth was stuffed with food. Indeed, she was a little lovable. However, wasn't she a little too young? Although she was the same age as Jing Yunzhao was different. She had a mature personality, so sometimes she would forget her age. However, this little loli in front of him was different. She wasn't tall, and whether it was her temperament or appearance, she looked like a minor. Of course, except for her chest, Du Lin was a little embarrassed and laughed dryly. What was he doing? The others were just making a joke, but he was actually sizing up this girl from head to toe. He was really too perverted. Big Brother Du, what do you think? Hua Tianxian stretched her head and looked at him expectantly. Don't joke around. How could I harm such a little girl, huh? Du Lin laughed dryly. Yao Baobao stuffed another mouthful of food into her mouth, and there was a little resentment in her eyes. Big Brother Du's cooking was really delicious, much better than her family's chef. Moreover, he was different from other chefs. His body did not have the smell of oil and smoke, but the aroma of vegetables. Most of the chefs she had seen had oily faces and strong bodies, but Big Brother Du's body was very well proportioned and handsome. His voice was also very pleasant to listen to. She always felt that he was particularly amiable, which made her feel very nervous. Hua Tianxian had a pair of sharp eyes. With one glance, she could tell that Du Lin's laughter had a different flavor to it. She immediately sighed and said, What a pity. Your Yu Tianxian is too far from our school. There aren't any good restaurants near the school. I'm afraid that after this meal, it will be tasteless for a long time. Du Lin glanced at Yao Bao Bao. I have a house near a university as well. Do you want me to bring you lunch when I'm free in the afternoon? As soon as he finished speaking, he wanted to slap himself. Just now, he had expressed his refusal, but in less than 2 minutes, he was actually moved. Moreover, at a university, he did not even remember buying a house, however. If he bought one later, it wouldn't be considered a lie, right? Although houses in the capital city were expensive, fortunately, he still had a lot of money. That's for the best. Celestial Immortal Hua immediately replied happily. She was not that greedy. This was for the sake of Yao Baobao. Who asked Yao Baobao to be younger than her and timid? With her temper, if she did not take the initiative, her parents would definitely choose someone to marry in a few years. Even if they chose the best one, the best person in the world would always be the one in their heart. Chapter 1150. Yao Baobao didn't expect Hua Tianxian to be so bold as to ask Du Lin to deliver the food. However, she felt an indescribable joy in her heart. After all, if she could eat such delicious food every day, she would be willing to do anything. Moreover, Brother Du was quite a feast for the eyes. However, if Hua Tianxian knew what Yao Baobao was thinking at this moment, she would probably say that she was a little gray wolf in sheep's clothing. She hadn't even done anything yet, and she was already thinking about beauty. After all, Du Lin was the boss of the restaurant, so he didn't stay for too long. After he left, Yao Baobao obviously became a little listless. Jing Yunjiao originally only had the intention of joking. However, after seeing Yao Baobao's appearance, he began to feel that this matter was indeed feasible. She trusted Du Lin's character. Moreover, after knowing him for so long, she had never seen him have any romantic disputes. Moreover, if he wasn't a person with a good character, he probably wouldn't have become friends with Li Xiaoyun at all. Yao Baobao had a simple personality, while Du Lin loved to cook and didn't have many tricks up his sleeves. The two of them were indeed a good match. The few of them continued to eat and drink, and it was extremely lively. After nearly 2 hours, they were almost full and ready to get up and leave. However, just as Hua Tianxian opened the door and looked down from the railing, her face suddenly changed. What's wrong? Jing Yunjiao was a little concerned. Hua Tianxian turned around and took a deep breath. Her smile was a little stiff. Nothing, I'm fine. Jing Yunjiao furrowed her brows and looked towards the direction she was looking at. She was also shocked by what she saw. She saw 3 people downstairs walking towards the elevator. The man in the middle was Hua Tianxian's father. On his 2 sides were a beautiful woman and a 15-year-old girl. The little girl was very beautiful. She hugged Hua Tianxian's arm. The 3 of them walked together like a family. Jing Yunjiao's eyes were a little sad. There were always things that didn't go your way in this world. She had met Hua's dad twice. The first time was when he was donating to charity, and the 2 of them did not talk. The second time was at the birthday party. At that time, she felt that although Hua's dad and Mrs. Hua were married for business purposes, he really doted on his daughter. However, she did not see the way Hua's dad looked at the girl downstairs. It was truly the expression between father and daughter. In comparison, the way Hua's dad looked at Hua Tianxian was a little more polite and distant. She was the heir of the Hua family, and his daughter came second. He was very clear about this relationship. Let's go, Hua Tianxian said straightforwardly, as if the trace of panic just now was just an illusion. It wasn't good for Jing Yunjiao to ask too much, so she could only nod her head. Only then did the few of them walk towards the elevator. However, at this moment, Jing Yunjiao had an ominous premonition. She kept feeling that the saying, enemies on a narrow road, made sense. Sure enough, when the elevator doors opened, they saw Hua Dad and the mother and daughter. Hua Dad was full of smiles. He was talking to the woman next to him. The moment he turned around and was about to step out of the elevator, he met Hua Tianxian's eyes. His smile instantly froze on his face. He did not know whether he should retract his foot or not. They were in a deadlock. Everyone else had left, and only the 3 of them remained. Since Hua Dad was blocking the elevator made a beeping sound as it opened and closed. Xian Air? Why are you here? Hua Dad asked stiffly. I'm sorry. I wanted to pretend that I didn't see you, but I didn't expect you to come to this floor as well. Hua Tianxian did not react much. She even apologized. Chapter 1151. Jing Yunzhao, Xiao Haiqing, and even Yao Baobao felt a little awkward. Even though they weren't sure of the identity of the mother and daughter in front of them, they felt that the atmosphere was a little strange. They couldn't help but think in a bad way. After a while, Hua Jinyao's father walked out of the elevator with the mother and daughter. This is Liang Min. This is her daughter, Hua Tianxin. She's 15 years old this year. She's your younger sister. Hua, Dad forced himself to introduce them. Does my mother know? Hua Tianxian asked calmly. Her parents were definitely the most parallel couple in the world. Apart from when she was born, they had never interacted with each other. They didn't even live in the same house. They each had their own house. In the past, she would divide her time every month and appear at one of their houses at a fixed time. She knew that her father had an affair. She also knew that her mother had an affair. Therefore, she didn't make a fuss at all. However, although the two of them had their own lives, they had both promised that they would not have any other children apart from her. This was the bottom line. But now, her father had a daughter who was already so old. Her mother might not be aware of this. I haven't told your mother yet, Xian'er. I'll explain this to her myself. Can you keep it a secret for now? What? Dad asked hesitantly. This was a serious matter. Once Tianxian's mother found out about it, the relationship they had maintained for so long would definitely break down. Once they divorced, there would definitely be a change in the company's shares. If that happened, there would be a big problem. The two of them shared the company's shares. It had been like this before their marriage. After so many years, they had lived in harmony. However, it seemed like this situation couldn't continue. I can keep it a secret, but Dad, you have to be careful. You can't transfer the company's assets. Everything you have now is shared with my mother. She has wronged you, but she doesn't have an illegitimate daughter. Do you understand? What Tianxian said calmly. However, Jing Yunzhao saw that her hands were clenched so tightly that her knuckles turned white. I know. What? Dad nodded. In the past, he had almost never brought his daughter, Hua Tianxin, out to play. Now that he finally had time, and it was his second daughter's birthday, he made an exception to accompany the mother and daughter. However, he did not expect to bump into a celestial fairy. Hua Tianxian nodded and turned her gaze back to the mother and daughter. The Hua Tianxian has only ever had one successor, and that is me. Even if my father's blood flows in your veins, it doesn't matter. This is not something that can be decided by one person. Therefore, I hope that you will know your place, said Hua Tianxian directly. Hua Jinyao's father didn't say a word. Everything in the Hua family would be left to Hua Tianxian. This was what he and his wife had decided on the day they became celestial immortals. It wasn't a promise. It was for the mutual benefit of both parties. Although he had an illegitimate daughter, it didn't mean that he would hand over the assets that didn't belong to his second daughter to her. Otherwise, the company would be in a mess. His wife wouldn't just stand by and watch someone who wasn't related to her take over the company that she had painstakingly built for so long. Hua Tianxian was the only link between the two of them. She was the only person who could balance the two of them. No one else could do that. Hua Tianxin's face turned pale. Tears immediately flowed out of her eyes. She grabbed Hua, Dad's arm, and said, Dad, be good. Your sister won't do anything to you. Hua, Dad only rubbed her head. He didn't make any decisions for her. Chapter 1152. Since Hua Dad had said so, Hua Tianxin could only nod her head sadly. The mother and daughter made way for Hua Tianxian. They entered the elevator. When the elevator doors closed, Hua Tianxian was still calm and expressionless. It was only when the elevator doors completely blocked out the light from outside that Jing Yunzhao realized that she had let go of his hand. He smiled and said, Extreme joy begets sorrow. She must have been having too much fun just now, so a bolt from the blue had struck her. However, this was not the first time she had seen her father and the mother and daughter. When she went to her father's house in the past, she rummaged through his things and found a photo. Her father was carrying a very young child, smiling very kindly. That child was not her. At that time, she had a faint premonition, so she was exceptionally obedient. She did not even show the rebellious side of her that was typical of adolescence. She was afraid that she would lose her parents, who were like business partners. Therefore, although she saw her sister today, it was not that she could not accept it. After all, she had been mentally prepared for this for too many years. Great Immortal, are you all right? Yao Baobao asked with concern. Don't worry. What can I not handle? Hua Tianxian smiled and pretended to be strong. Her name was Hua Tianxian. This name was just a random one that her parents came up with. They only hoped that she would be gracious in the future and be a classy young lady. Her sister's name was Hua Tianxin. Just from the name, one could tell how her father felt when he had that child. After they went downstairs, they were delayed for a while because they had to inform Du Lin. Just as they were about to leave Yu Tianxian, the petite figure behind them quickly ran towards them. Big sister, Hua Tianxin called out sweetly from behind. When she saw that Hua Tianxian had stopped, she went up to her and said, Big sister, can I come over to play with you in the future? In the past, every time she went to her father's house, she would have to leave as soon as her big sister came back. No. Hua Tianxian was very direct and arrogant. She was the legitimate daughter of the Hua family, while the woman in front of her was just her father's illegitimate daughter. She admitted that she was a selfish person when it came to such matters, but no matter what, she had to keep her bottom line. Why? Sister, do you not like me? Hua Tianxin asked, feeling wronged. I don't hate you, but I have no reason to like you either, Hua Tianxian said bluntly. Of the two sisters, one was destined to never feel the love of her parents, and the other would never be able to obtain wealth and power. Since the heavens had already decided, it was better not to make any changes. But I didn't do anything. I didn't want Dad to dote on me. Plus, he gave you everything. You were so cold just now. It's not good at all. Hua Tianxin pouted. She appeared young in front of Hua Tianxian and the others, so it was very effective for her to pretend to be pitiful. Hua Tianxian suddenly sneered. Are you provoking me? Or do you think you can get something from Dad because he loves you? Of course not. I just feel sorry for my father. I'm not like you. My parents are truly in love, but your mother and my father are only in a business marriage. I understand that, Hua Tianxin argued. She had tricked her father and snuck down. It was rare for her to have the opportunity to see her big sister, so she had to make things clear. Chapter 1153. Hua Tianxian couldn't help but want to laugh when she heard her little sister say the words, true love. How could she not know what kind of temper her own father had? He had been with more than one or two women. He was not a lecherous man, but he had never kept himself chaste for anyone. He just tried his best to appear clean in front of her. As for Hua Tianxin's mother, she must have been lucky to have given birth to a daughter. That was why her father treated her so well. Hua Tianxin's mother was a strong woman. In some ways, she was as strong as a man. Her father was not weak either. Therefore, he wanted a woman who was considerate, gentle, and able to take care of him. It did not matter who this woman was. What did she mean by true love? Sounds so pretentious. It seems like I have to ask my father to teach you a lesson. It doesn't matter if my parents got married for business reasons, or if they had feelings for each other. They are still a legitimate couple. You are so fond of saying that you are in love with your mistress. It seems like you will become a homewrecker in the future. If I don't teach you a lesson, you will embarrass my father. Hua Tianxian had never been a person to be trifled with. This girl was bullying the wrong person by trying to make her presence known. Hua Tianxin's face turned red. No matter what you say, my father loves me the most. Hua Tianxin said again. Is that so? You are taking the initiative to stir up trouble. It seems like you really want me to expose this matter so that you can be the daughter of the Hua family. All right, since you are so willing, I will fulfill your wish. Miss Hua, just wait for my good news. Hua Tianxian sneered and turned to leave. Her arrogant look made Hua Tianxin feel guilty. Hua Tianxin's father loved Hua Tianxin from the bottom of his heart. He did not allow Hua Tianxian to expose this matter because it was for their own good. But now, Hua Tianxin thought that she was the one who was at a disadvantage. Hua Tianxian despised Hua Tianxin in her heart. How could a little girl like her compete with her? Once the news of her father raising an illegitimate daughter got out, the shareholders of the Hua family would immediately stand on her mother's side. The shareholders were after money and did not want the Hua Corporation to fall apart. When the time came, it would be her mother and her who would win. After all, if she inherited the company, her parents would help her. If Hua Tianxin became the heir, her dear mother would do everything in her power to kill her sister. It did not take long for Hua Tianxin to realize how stupid she was. Naturally, Jing Yunzhao knew what Hua Tianxian knew. He couldn't help but sigh. Celestial Immortal Hua was truly open-minded. Originally, Celestial Immortal Hua was a little unhappy, but when she realized that her sister was so stupid, her mood improved. Everyone was already used to her unpredictable temper. The four of them were not in a hurry to go home. Jing Yunzhao rarely came out to play. Now that they had the chance, they wanted to enjoy themselves. When the sky turned dark, the four of them went to a bar and took a stroll. They even chose a private room and sang like crazy. Xiao Hai's voice wasn't bad. Her voice carried a bit of magnetism and had a kind of seductive charm. Listening to her voice, Jing Yunzhao could even imagine how good the theme song she sang for the TV series would sound. In contrast to Xiao Haiqing, Jing Yunzhao's voice was especially cold. It was suitable for awkward silence. Her singing was slow too. Every time she finished singing, the four of them felt as if they had been imbued with scriptures. It was as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over them. Jing Yunzhao knew that she was not suitable for singing. In the end, she just sat there obediently and played along with the three of them. Chapter 1154. Among the four of them, Jing Yunzhao had the best alcohol tolerance. After all, she had martial arts to protect her body. After circulating her qi, she would be able to clear her mind. Xiao Haiqing was second. Xiao Haiqing's alcohol tolerance was trained bit by bit over the years. It wasn't that she wouldn't collapse after 1,000 cups, but after a few bottles, she could still maintain her sobriety. Moreover, after drinking, she would forbid anyone from touching her, except for Jing Yunzhao. As for Hua Tianxian and Yao Baobao, the former could only be considered average. As for the latter, she would collapse after one glass. Outside the room, it was very lively. However, the four of them would not foolishly run out. After all, their appearances were too eye-catching. However, when they left the bar, there were still many people who approached them to strike up a conversation. Jing Yunzhao supported Yao Baobao, while Xiao Haiqing supported Hua Tianxian. The four of them were immediately surrounded by a few men. Hua Tianxian drank a little too much. She struggled to break free from Xiao Haiqing and pointed at the men. "Get out of my way. Otherwise, vomit." Suddenly, she vomited on the shoes of a man who had just pushed through the crowd and walked over. The man was wearing a pair of spectacles, a suit, and a tie. His features were sharp and handsome. He reached out his hand to support Hua Tianxian. "Miss, are you all right?" Hua Tianxian raised her head absent-mindedly. She was stunned for a moment before patting the man's shoulder. Beast in human clothing. There were many such men in the world, just like her father. He had promised her mother that he would not end his life in love. However, he was loyal to his marriage and would not divorce or have children with other people. However, he was a liar. He did not even fulfill his bottom line. Jing Yunzhao's eyes narrowed. She felt that this man was indeed somewhat familiar. After thinking carefully, she recalled that he had seen a photo before. "Jean Iran? You're drunk." After Jean Iran said that, he turned around and looked at the men who had surrounded the four of them. His face was filled with displeasure. "If you don't want to die, get out of my way." When the boys heard this, they were a little angry. Just as they were about to flare up, they saw a few men in black walking over from behind. Their faces were ferocious. They immediately turned into cowards and walked away. "I'm very sorry for letting you guys encounter this kind of situation in my bar." Jean Iran spoke up, then glanced at Jing Yunzhao. Jing Yunzhao had only seen this man in photos before, but he had a deep impression of him. Now that he saw him face to face, he felt a sense of crisis. This man had a murderous aura, just like Li Xiaoyun. However, in addition to Li Xiaoyun's murderous aura, there was also a trace of righteousness. However, this man was very evil. His eyes were like a venomous snake. He seemed to be smiling like a gentleman, but it made people's hair stand on end. I'm fine, but please let her go first. Jing Yunjiao reached out and pulled Hua Tianxian back. Jean Iran smiled and let go of her hand cooperatively. These two ladies have drunk a little too much. Do you need me to send them back? No need. Jing Yunjiao glanced at him, her guard up against him. After that, Jing Yunjiao left the bar with the four of them. Originally, she wanted to take them to Old Six Bar. After all, it was cleaner and safer there. However, they had already walked around Jingdu several times, and it was too far to go to Old Six Bar. Therefore, she randomly chose a bar. She did not expect that it was opened by Jean Iran. Yunjiao, do you know the man in the bar just now? Jing Yunjiao's alcohol tolerance was very good. She did not drink much, so she drove. Xiao Haiqing could not help but ask. Just now, Jing Yunjiao looked at the man strangely. The two of them were either acquaintances or enemies. Chapter 1155. Jing Yunjiao nodded and said to Xiao Haiqing, that man is called Jean Iran. If it weren't for him, Shunshi wouldn't have been able to do so many things behind our backs. He is a dangerous person. The biggest problem was that Jean Iran's father was killed by her first uncle and his mother. Although her first uncle had assured her that he had never harmed the mother and son, Shunshi's statement was different. Therefore, it was possible that something had happened in between. It was very likely that someone had framed her first uncle. Moreover, this person was also good at acting. She didn't believe that Jean Iran didn't know her at all. After all, Shunshi hated her so much, it was impossible that she had never mentioned her before. Moreover, her first uncle doted on her very much. Therefore, it was reasonable to say that if Jean Iran really hated her first uncle, he would definitely have investigated her. However, just now, this person pretended to be very unfamiliar with her. Yunjiao, you should be more careful. In the future, let's not come to this kind of place. Of course, it's best that we inform Hua Tianxian and the others. If he targets us, it's fine. But if he targets Hua Tianxian and the others, Xiao Haiqing said worriedly. She had encountered such a thing before. It was an unexpected disaster. No matter what, her relationship with Jing Yunjiao was somewhat different. She could entrust her life to him. As for whether it would implicate him or not, it didn't matter. However, it was different for others. I know. Jing Yunjiao nodded. She was already very careful. Usually, she didn't spend much time with her friends. She was afraid that she would implicate the people around her. By the way, did Xiao Zizhou look for you recently? Xiao Haiqing asked again. Jing Yunjiao nodded. Why? You met him? Yes, at that time. I saw him with a girl. He seemed to have told the girl that you were his sister. You had just announced your identity to the public 2 days ago. I thought that someone like him might cling to you, Xiao Haiqing said. You're really accurate. He did come, but he was beaten away. I don't know where he's recuperating now. Jing Yunjiao couldn't help but sneer. Don't you think you're having a bad year? You seem to have a lot of trouble recently. There's Xiao Zizhou, there's that mysterious Jean Iran, and there's that Li family of yours. I'm starting to sympathize with you. Did you come to Beijing to study? Fortunately, you don't have to worry about that company. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to defend it even if you had 3 heads and 6 arms, right? Xiao Haiqing was speechless. Jing Yunjiao also sighed. Taking back everything in the Jing family was an urgent matter to her. Only then would her mother be able to be buried in the Jing family cemetery. However, she didn't list them as a big enemy. After all, she knew the other party's background and what kind of chips they had in their hands. As for that Xiao Zizhou, he wasn't a problem at all. At most, he was just a spice in her life. The only person she was afraid of was that Jean Iran. It was because the other party had been hiding in the dark that she couldn't find out the other party's background. That was why she felt uneasy. However, she had always been a person who dealt with soldiers and water with an earthweir. The word fear didn't exist in her dictionary. Jing Yunjiao first sent Xiao Haiqing back to school before bringing Yao Bao and Yao Bao back to the dormitory. The two practically fell head first into bed and slept soundly. Jing I seem to remember seeing a handsome guy yesterday. The next morning, Tianxian came up to her with a disheveled appearance. Her eyes were shining as she spoke. You're seeing things. That person's face was full of pockmarks. He looked at you and drooled. He even almost took advantage of you. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.